Much more subdued. Welcome to the stream. We have to we have to keep our energy low. It's too early in the morning. It's not even 11 o'clock yet. Yeah, so last night I thought I was gonna start Higurashi afternoon at around like 2-ish or 1-ish or something. I gotta say, sometimes as you reach your adult age like me, when you turn 57, um like myself, scheduling things is hard, so I had to kind of bump it up even earlier. So look at that, we're doing we'll do morning and afternoon, a couple of chapters here. So welcome to the stream, thanks for joining. Let's also, we can't dilly dally too much. We got to move with not like light speed pace, but moderate pace. So let's recap what happened last stream, yeah? And I think, basically, unless I'm missing something, I would put two things as important. One, Satoko came back to the school, put on a brave face, but clearly that brave face is hiding bad stuff still happening and or bad feelings during one of their normal lunch hangout sessions. Kechi was I think reached out a hand to her to do what was portrayed as a very normal thing, normal kind of friendly. I think it was a head pat, something along those lines. She had a very violent reaction to it. Clearly not a good headspace. Clearly not what should have happened in theory. So that basically tells us, the reader, and Takechi, that things are still not great. She had such a violent reaction. She like lost control of herself. She was thrashing about. She was tossing desks and chairs. She was in the corner of the room. The rest of the class was just scared, basically, is what it seemed to be portrayed. The teacher took a fucking millennia to show up to the classroom. I don't know why it took her so long. For fuck's sake. So she finally comes in. She addresses the situation. And then the second thing, basically, that I think happened on Tuesday's stream was that Kechi had this like monologue, this like very determined and just very slightly unhinged, but also like determined monologue that he's like, all right, the adults aren't helping. Mion isn't helping, and apparently she was supposed to be helping from what he was told from Takano. She doesn't seem to be helping the situation. I've gone to all the people I thought that I could trust and help. Fucking Irie is not helping, seemingly. All these people that I thought could back me up and help are letting me and Satoko down. So he had this monologue where he's like, 1,500 seconds. That's all it would take. Something along those lines. I don't know if that's exactly what he said. He said something along the lines of like, ooh, I could just fucking do it. I could just kill this person. If I didn't mind about getting caught, I could just do it immediately and it would be so easy. But he's like, the thing is, I can't get caught because I want to return to our normal lives. And the normal lives involves me and us and everyone else hanging out at the club. So we start to see in his mind him basically see the vision of like, all right, I just need to take out the perpetrator and get away with it. Now, I don't know exactly what his plan is. I think someone recycling bottles outside. I don't know if that got picked up on stream. It's just a loud bottle noise. I don't know if he came up with a plan or anything yet. I think it's still a bit in the air. Maybe we're going to see that over the next couple of chapters here, what his actual plan to, in theory, kill the uncle is. But I think those are the two important things to take away from Tuesday's section we read. Where's the game? There it is. Surprisingly, I don't hear cicadas outside my own apartment. But I assume soon. We're starting to get to really warm weather here where I live. We're starting to reach those mid to high 90s already. So around this time, the cicadas will join us for our Higurashi streams. Really become entrenched in the... immersed, you could say. It's like a 4D experience. The cicadas will come in real life and join us and aid in the sound effects. That'll be great. So let us begin. Like I said, 2 stretches here. 2 chapters, I mean, to hopefully read here tonight. With a moderate pace. What is Ketchy going to do? We're all dying to know. Oh yeah, we got the festival coming up. Are we actually going to see the festival tonight? Or tonight? I'm still thinking it's Higurashi Saturday night. Mion and the others, having to set up for the Watsunagashi festival or something, invited me along, but I refused. Of course I did. How could they be taking it easy setting up for a festival in this situation? Mion had a lot of nerve. Oh, he's so resentful. He's so pissed. He's like, I cannot believe these people are not spending 150% of their focus fixing this this situation. Was it on Tuesday's stream that we learned, or was it last Saturday that we learned why potentially Satoko didn't get the benefit of the doubt? Like the whole cry wolf situation. I can't remember if that happened on Tuesday or if that was the Saturday before, but we did at some point learn the reason why when he learned of 2 things. He learned that the protective services was actually called twice before this. There was a first time that he wasn't aware of, and that first time she called it on herself, basically as like a way to try to get back, I think, at like this a stepdad type situation, because she was a rebellious child, and that I think tainted then future things. Kind of fucked the situation over. How could they be taking it easy and setting up for a festival in this situation? Mion had a lot of nerve. Mouse is just right there. First thing I did when I got back was take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash off sweat. It was because I wanted to be even calmer. I already understood this, but killing that man would be so very easy. The really hard thing would be not getting arrested for it, so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Japan's police force have the highest arrest rate in the world. I would need to deceitfully pull off the perfect crime, and it couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have a 100% arrest rate. I've read a lot of articles on trials with people brought up on false charges. At court, they consider whether the charges are false or not, but figuring out the real criminal is entirely out of scope. And that meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. Damn, he's gone full psycho mode. I'm kind of excited to see what this entails for Ketchy, or how we get this portrayed, because we're clearly seeing him. He's off the deep end. He's 100% committed to this. He's fully wrapped around, and this is the only thing he really cares about and thinks now at this point. He has snapped. They could even be respected and revered. You just had to look at the inundation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult-to-solve incidents, involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff, but they all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of a perfect crime. There was something divine in the flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes, perfect crimes are skills of the gods. And in that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of Oyashiro-sama, I understood. They must have been the works of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they couldn't stop it from happening every year. Yeah, skills belonging only to gods. Those are perfect crimes. And I would be setting up my own crime before Oyashiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in the running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. Foolhardiness would be needed to make the decision, but I needed to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. Kill him like a flame, but as systematic as ice. Starting now, I need to retain both of those ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Sometimes, kidnappings involving disturbing, original methods that made it into the newspaper were used as a basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night, for a very long time, mystery novel authors polished and refined their most fantastic artistic crimes. Imitating that could be a shortcut to plan the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. Hey, Mom, how could I go about, just theorying here, pull off a perfect, criminal act? That'd be very funny if he asked her. She'd read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past and present. Every time she watched mystery shows, she would always criticize them as having cheap tricks or being poorly thought out. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her.
これまでの推理小説の中で母さんが一番よくできたと思った完全犯罪
What do I think the most well-done perfect crime in all the mystery novels I've read is? Yeah.
母さんって結構たくさん推理小説を読んでるでしょ
Completely normal thing to ask your mom. Yeah, well, you read quite a lot of them, right?
そういうの詳しいかなって思って
I figured you might know a lot about them.
それを読むから楽しいのよ
It's more fun to read them to find out.
初めからトリックを教えちゃったら楽しみがなくなっちゃうわ
If I told you all the tricks right off the bat, there'd be no fun anymore. You know what mystery story he should read to find out how to pull off the best crime? He should read this little story called Umineko, such as I did, and then come back to this. It was an attempt at a joke. It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question, so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an answer.
そうねよくできた推理小説
Of course, well done mystery novels. Yeah.
結構どれもこれもいろんな魅力があってどれが面白かったとは言いにくいけど強いてあげれば
They all have a unique charm to them, so it's hard to say which is the most interesting. You really have to force me to pick one.
母さんの好きな小説のタイトルが知りたいんじゃないよ
I didn't want to know which novels you liked.
母さんが一番舌を巻いた完全トリックが知りたいんだよ
I wanted to know about the trick that made you the most surprised.
本当に完全なトリックだったら名探偵に解く余地がないじゃない
If it was really a perfect trick, the detectives wouldn't be able to solve the case, though. That was true. Then there'd be no point.
推理小説は解ける謎をいかに解くかの過程を楽しむものよ
Mystery novels are enjoyable because of the process of the mysteries getting solved.
解けない謎だったらそれは推理小説の題材になり得ないわね
If it was unsolvable, it wouldn't make a very good topic for a novel.
そっか
I get it.
そりゃそうだよな
Yeah, you're right.
主人公に解けなかったらお話として成立しないもんな
If the main character can't solve it, it wouldn't be much of a story, huh? Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game. They were written so that they could get to the goal, so that you could solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. It needed to be the be-all, end-all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives.
ということはケイチ
By the way, Kechi,
真の完全犯罪は物語にすらならないというのがわかるかしら？
Do you understand that truly perfect crimes don't even become stories? Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned impishly. I'd never gotten to read it, but apparently one time a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently she was really into it.
物語にならないってどういう意味？
Don't even become stories. What does that mean?
ケイチ、物語の最低構成要素は？
Kechi, what are the essential parts of a story?
起承転結。
A beginning, a middle, and an end?
正解。
Correct.
特に肝心なのは当たり前だけど、木に当たる部分よ。
The beginning, of course, is especially important.
スタートの木がなかったら、そもそも物語は始まらない。
If there's no beginning, then the story never starts.
そりゃそうだよ。
Well, yeah.
何も起こらなかったら何も始まらない。
If nothing happened, nothing would begin.
そう。
Right.
何も起こらないから事件にもならない。
Nothing happened, so there wouldn't even be an incident.
探偵も呼ばれないから推理もない。
Detectives wouldn't be called, so there wouldn't be any mystery.
推理がないなら解決もない。
There would be no mystery, so there would be no solution.
つまり、これが究極の完全犯罪。
In other words, it'd be the ultimate perfect crime.
ちょっと待って。
Wait a second.
もう一度説明してくれるかな？
Could you explain that again? My mom just told me something absurd. And she was saying it so smoothly too, so I kind of tuned her out, but she said something extremely important just now.
そんな難しい話じゃないわよ。
It's not really that difficult to understand.
そもそも事件が発覚しなければいいだけの話。
The incident just has to never come to light, that's all.
そもそも発覚しない事件。
Just has to never come to light?
つまり、例えばよ。
For example, how about this?
誰も立ち入らない深い森の奥で、おじいさんが一人暮らしをしているとする。
Say there's an old man living deep in a forest nobody goes into. Uh-huh.
そのおじいさんがある日、斧で殺されました。
And one day, the old man gets killed by an axe.
ちなみに犯人は、じゃあ、おじいさんの息子ね。
And, let's say the criminal was the old man's son.
おじいさんの家に来て一緒にお酒を飲んでいたんだけど、ちょっと喧嘩になって殺してしまった。
He went to the old man's house and they were drinking together, but they got into a fight and he killed him. An extremely cheap plot. It was an impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect crime.
でもケイチ、
But Kechi,
そこはとても深い森の中の一軒家なの。
the house was really, really deep in this forest.
普段は絶対に誰も訪れない深い山奥の深い森の中。
So deep in the mountains that nobody would ever go out that far.
さて、殺した息子は町に帰ってきてこう言うの。
Then his son would go back to town and say
おじいさんは元気だったって。
that the old man was doing fine.
それのどこが完全犯罪なの？
What about that as a perfect crime?
ケイチ、
Kechi,
この事件はね、おじいさんが殺されているのが見つかって初めて木を迎えるのよ。
Kechi's a little dense here. This incident would only begin when it was found out that the old man was killed.
もしもこの後、誰もおじいさんの家を訪れなかったら、永久に木は訪れない。
If nobody ever visited the old man's house after that, the beginning would never occur. The beginning would never occur.
だからつまり物語は始まらない。
So basically, the story wouldn't start.
事件が発覚しないから探偵も呼ばれない。
The incident wouldn't come to light, and they wouldn't call in detectives.
そもそも誰も不審に思わないから謎も起こらない。
And nobody would be suspicious in the first place, so there'd be no mystery.
おじいさんは今日も一人でのんびり森の奥で暮らしているんだろうね。
They'd think the old man was still living by himself deep in the forest.
で、お空におじいさんの顔が浮かんで、ジエンド。
Hence, this is one of the many reasons why I stream. If someone was to go and try to murder me, and then my streams just for no reason just like stop, I'm basically covered by my streams, right? Then everyone who watches the streams, they stop seeing the uploads come through. They stop seeing the streams go live. They'd be like, oh shit, someone murdered Austin. Help him. Okay. They think the old man was still living by himself deep in the forest, and the old man's face would appear in the sky, and that would be it.
どうこんな感じで。
Something like that, you know?
すごいじゃないか。
That's amazing.
それちゃんとしたトリックだよ。
That's a pretty great trick.
でも娯楽小説にはならないわね。
My murderer would have to put on fake streams just to cover up my murder. So then you would have to... Then you would think you would have to figure out that the murderer is bad at acting like me. I don't know what the hell I'm going on about. Do I think Kechi is going to go through with this? I want to initially say yes, but there's something in me that feels like narratively it would be kind of interesting to see something stop him from doing it. Or if someone beats him to the punch. I was thinking about this ever since Tuesday's stream where he really got locked into the idea of like murdering the uncle. There are some prime candidates for someone beating him to murdering the uncle. And then we could go a step further and say maybe he still gets framed for murdering the uncle somehow, even though he didn't technically do it. Because maybe in his prep for this, he leaves some kind of like evidence that says that he was trying to set it up. And then Oishi gets him or something. But I could see like him try to do it, but then like when he sees the uncle, so there are so many candidates because this whole thing is him having to plan this in his mind because he thinks no one is going to help him. But we've now seen potential candidate Irie, potential candidate Mion and her hit squad apparently, potential candidate, honestly, even Satoko. What if she just goes crazy one day and just takes out her uncle? I don't think it's that far. I mean, she sets up traps, like traps that could probably kill people. She's a trap master. I could see her do it. So that's what I would place my bet on. I think that would make for an interesting story. He goes to do it, and then someone beats him. And he finds that out somehow once he's about to go do it. Good morning, morning. Ketch's mom says, but it wouldn't be a novel.
推理小説は所詮娯楽書。
Mystery novels are for entertainment after all.
完全犯罪の指南書にはなり得ないんだから。
They can't be instruction manuals for perfect crimes. I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside I was excited. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash. None of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, and dispose the corpse somewhere no one could find, it would basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day all of a sudden, people would get suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village in fear of Oyashiro-sama. When the night of Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear again. I mean, he had been living with a lover of his in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. People hated him, after all. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside my house anymore. I left, getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I had just those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I've been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time. But if I could get those little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him on the night of Watanagashi. So as long as I was standing in for Yoshiro-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Satoko, just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please, hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second. I know that. But please, just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. What is that music? I was like, what is this music? It's weird. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. If I heard a little bit of thunder, I'd definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. Yeah, I know. I'm pumped. We hear a new background track? Get excited. My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I need to explain what method for killing that man I decided upon. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse. The same as a punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable, but this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. You just needed to think realistically. The law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even the longest ones, were still limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, a weapon with more reach, like a staff, would be far more advantageous. A staff? Bruh. I think if he's going to want to beat him to death, I think thematically it makes sense that we're going to land on a bat. A baseball bat would be my guess. It might not be quite as inherently lethal, but since you could just keep hitting the guy until you killed him, the end result was the same. So, what's a staff-like deadly weapon? Terrifyingly powerful, and also eminently portable. By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. Of special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. This makes me just think more and more about my theory. I think I explained a bit more, in the last stream. I mean, like, we were told back when Satoshi, in a previous chapter, where Akechi was carrying and swinging around a baseball bat for, like, protection in his eyes. And the others were like, man, that's really creepy you're doing that. That's something Satoshi was doing a lot of, back in the day. And how I was saying in my theory, oh, it makes, in my head, a ton of sense then if the reason Satoshi disappeared was that he killed the aunt and then disappeared and got out of town because he thought that that was going to help out Satoko, right? I explained my whole kind of like theory, I think more on Tuesday. But I think this makes it even more sense, right? I think Satoshi had the same brain as, the same mindset as we see here with Kechi now trying to take out the uncle. Or we get really weird with my theory, my whole roguelike theory. And Kechi has been is Satoko reincarnated? No, that's just my goofy theory. But I'm almost 100% locked in on my theory that this is just the same. He's repeating almost the same actions and thought patterns that Satoshi had the year prior, trying to take out the aunt, to try to improve Satoko's living conditions. And he also chose the bat as a weapon of choice. And then, like I said, we were shown and told, oh man, that's so creepy. Satoshi did the same thing. He was swinging around a bat. Now, at the time when that was happening and being explained, Kechi wasn't trying to murder anyone necessarily. He was using it as protection against his club mates, in his eyes. But we see the parallel. Anyway, just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. Ooh. After school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun, playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. I can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful even about that. That left school. At a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course, there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others, when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously, as I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went in the entrance. Just act like you belong there. That's what you gotta do. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. Didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of a strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom, with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about of their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. The hell is he going on about? He's fucking losing it. If I suddenly stepped into a place like that, with the desks, in their surprise, fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive?
Baka-bakashi.
That's ridiculous. I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. The student lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. One I had accidentally discovered one day.
Atta. Hojo.
Here it is. Hojo.
間違いない.
This has to be it. If one person has one locker, then why would only Satoko have 2? I'd made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and he had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. Also, theory aside, which I feel more and more almost correct about the whole thing, or at least that's what the story's trying to portray to us, about how Satoshi took out maybe the ant with a bat, whatever. Just, even if that is wrong, it is very, like, story-wise, very cool to portray this as, like, alright, Kechi thinks of himself as the older brother, the Nini to Satoko, and he's going to the disappearing brother's locker to get his bat. I just like how thematically that sets up. Or, I keep saying thematically today, but, you know what I'm trying to say. It's a cool portrayal, I think. Murder portrayal. Here we go. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me, took a peek inside. Inside, it was average and worthless. At the time, I hadn't been interested, so until now I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened. I remembered the thing that had been there. Scrape? That's the sound effect I'm going with. I opened the locker, and a stench of mold and sweat wafted out, like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes, Satoshi was on Coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Namazawa fighter's uniform, and it, the one Satoshi used, the metal bat. Yes, this was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role. It was Satoshi's. but I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko Tsunini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft on it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There's no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now, I just needed to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and think it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. I left out the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. Maybe this one. We'd been warned by a teacher not to touch it just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it, in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none, because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off, and from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years. You can't just suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitely fine in this case. One of the few times the background art specifically actually matches the one little detail that we have going on. The sunlight was piercingly hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dulled thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits in the head, then looked around warily. Okay. Next, how to dispose of the corpse. Find your local river and toss it in. A local river. Wood chipper. Find your local wood chipper. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, first thing that came to mind was the swamp. Onigafuchi, the dreadful bottomless swamp revered even now, that appeared in the legends of Onigafuchi village. Yes, the swamp called Onigafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onigafuchi village. In other words, the swamp was the origin of Onigafuchi village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the land of the demons below the earth. Hey, I already made that vague joke, but I got it. That was how the stories went. I didn't say the island part. I was just saying, back when Ketchy was asking his mom about mystery stories, I was like, you should read Umineko. If I was trying to copy Oyashiro-sama's curse, then I felt that theory demanded a discard the remains of the weapon into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse the year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in the swamp. And the criminal behind the dismemberment... Wait, the scene with the mom was actually referenced in Umineko? Really? Yeah, I mean, unless it was super standoutish, yeah, you're right. There's no way in hell I'd remember that then. Maybe it would have, if I read Umineko second after Higurashi, then I'd probably have caught the reference, if that's the case. But that's very interesting. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse too, It was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I never heard of the corpse coming back up, or them finding it. Then, shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there too? I could discard the weapon there. And then, for example, if her uncle came out on a motorcycle and attacked, it'd be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Satoko's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation, but as for the corpse... After a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cut him to pieces and hide him, but the preparation and work for dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where would I bury it? Was a question related to where I would kill him. Oh, yeah, I read that weird. Of course, I wanted to keep my time in proximity to the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I'd want to dig the hole to dump the body in beforehand, and to make the location of the act and the hole close together. The choice of where to plan the crime, that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place where hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head of the various destinations her uncle would head to from Satoko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. A bit of a back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Yagochi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through those woods first. And nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Satoko's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal, as few people used it. I would wait for him, in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here for their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here, for Satoko's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him here? That man made Satoko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave, unless I worked out a plan to force him to, would he? That was a question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival, or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satoko go to the festival? Satoko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okinomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come and pick her up immediately? Didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come and then hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Satoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion? If he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Satoko would go to the festival, leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Satoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact to get her there. Satoko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body, so it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had wanted it to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew farther away. Sure. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of Higurashi were the only sounds here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place.
穴を掘るか。
Digging a hole, huh? Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I'd envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow, I bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd manage with that. I understand how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. I'd probably have to dig it pretty deep down. But if I was slipshod in these efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance night, even if it got dark out, but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I need to go back home and give Miyana a call soon. I need to get her to promise Satoko to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be, though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on a time, but I would play that by ear. Didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was that really all right? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Did this really go how I planned? This is how you know I would never... I feel this is very important for me to put on video record. This is how you know I would never be able to become a murderer. Because I would drive myself insane that I would not be able to, like, plan this out like this. I wouldn't be able to get this far. It takes a special kind of brain to be able to, like, do this and hold it all together. And I am willing to admit, I just don't have it in me. I don't have those dogs in me to carry this out. To plan like this and not go insane. My brain chemistry just would not allow it. Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all this, worries started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience, as this was my first time. Hey, I can't speak to other people. I can only speak about myself, honestly. Everyone else, maybe are murderers. I didn't have the know-how, the knack. So it was only natural I'd be anxious. I can't trust anyone else. As far as I know, everyone in chat, potential murderers. No, that's not me 100%, you know, accusing you guys. I'm just saying I would never know. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way. A truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was large and far older than me. He had a scary face, and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have... All the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned. But was the actual murder the most important part? What unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all my perfectly concealed machinations. If I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Damn it. After coming this far, you're pathetic, Kachimibara. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow, will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder. To kill someone for someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop. Those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Kichimaibara. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. Got it. It's good that we have like this stretch where there's like really no voices, like no voiceover. But man, I'm just like, I can feel it. My throat can feel it. I'm just reading with no breaks. That I'm so accustomed to getting. It's fine. This feeling I had never went away that night. I'll just lose my voice today. It's fine. I'll suffer for the art. It was the first time I'd be calling Mion's house. I searched for her in her phone book that the school gave me, then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, someone finally picked up the receiver.
Hi, Sonozaki desu.
Hello? This is Sonozaki. Oh, I'm sorry for calling so late at night. Is this Mion?
どちら様です?
Huh? May I ask who's calling? It's me, Kichi.
ああ、ケイちゃんか。
Ah, oh, Ki-chan.
何こんな時間に。
It's pretty late. What's up? What's up? She said it like, what's up? Like that. Ah, it's just like the old, Bud Light commercial? I'm not gonna do the impression of it, but she seemed to be in a weirdly good mood, and she drew her syllables out. Right. It's the night before tomorrow's festival, so she's probably with her family having some drinks. Sorry for the late call. Do you have time right now?
何?
Sure. What is it? It's about Satoko. I heard her draw in a small breath at the other end.
さとこ、大変なことになっちゃったね。
Satoko, she's in a pretty bad spot.
大丈夫かな?
I hope she's okay. The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her voice. She can't be okay. You saw it too, didn't you? What she was like? What do you mean, Ketchy? Of course they saw it. She was fucking caught thrashing up a storm in the classroom. You'd have to be blind not to see it.
あんな擦り切れるまでにいじめ抜かれて
She was completely worn out from all the abuse.
俺たちはあんなになるまでずっと見捨ててきた
We failed her all this time, and now she's become like that.
見捨ててたわけじゃないよ。
We didn't fail her.
みんな助けようとして必死に考えてたよ。
Everyone tried their hardest to help her.
でも結局何も思いつかなかったし里子を救えたわけじゃないだろ
But we didn't come up with anything, and we couldn't save her.
結局あんなになるまで俺たちは何もできなかった
In the end, we couldn't do anything about it, and now she's become like that.
そうだね。
I guess you're right.
私は結局見てただけかも。
All I did was watch, after all.
だからさ
So, well,
せめて
at least,
一夜くらい遊ばせてやろうじゃないか
Couldn't we at least let her have fun for one night?
遊ばせるって
Huh? Let her have fun?
あいつもいろいろと参ってるのわかるだろ
She's been so battered lately. You understand.
だからさ
That's why
明日の綿流しのお祭りにあいつを連れて行ってやってほしいんだ
I want you to take her to the Wadanagashi festival tomorrow.
それは構わないけど
I don't mind.
どうして
But why?
どうしてって
Why?
せめて祭りの夜くらい息抜きさせてやりたいじゃないか
I want to give her a breather at least for the festival night, you know?
たとえ一夜でもあの意地悪なおじの元から離れられるなら短い時間でもきっと聡子は喜ぶ
Even if it's just one night, if she can get away from her evil uncle, then I think she'll be happy, even if it's only a little while.
だから
Yes,
ど
but
うして
yes, but why?
どうしてって何がだよ
Why? Why what? I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was asking me.
どうして
Just tell her. I plan to murder the uncle. Well, or why? Well,
うんケイちゃんが連れて行ってあげないの
I mean, why don't you bring her, Ki-chan?
私に頼まなきゃならないの
Why do you need to ask me to do it? Mion was persistent about odd things. Dude, I'm telling you. Okay, let's just elaborate just slightly on my theory earlier where I was like, to me, it would make a ton of sense if Ketchy goes to try and murder the uncle and then like someone beats him to the punch. What if in like a wacky situation, literally everyone I talked about earlier goes to try to murder the uncle? It's like a 5-way or 4-way murder sesh, and like they all bump into each other. And that's why Mion is saying this. Mion already has it dead set that she was gonna go do it, and now she's like, well, I might be busy. You know what I mean? How wacky would that? How wacky would that be if like 4 different people went to go murder the uncle? I think it would actually be kind of funny. We have Ketchy, we have Mion, we have Satoko herself, we have Irie. Fuck, throw in another person. Teacher. Chie sensei. I'll go to plan. They've all this past 24 hours have been planning to murder the uncle on the night of the festival. Mion was persistent about odd things. No, made it be better to say that she was sharp.
俺実はちょっと明日は用事があってさ
Well, I actually have something to do tomorrow.
祭りには行けない
I can't make it to the festival.
だから聡子ミオンが連れて行ってやってほしい
So I wanted you to take Satoko there for me.
用事って
Something to do?
大した用事じゃないんだ
It's nothing major.
多分すぐに片付くと思うけどひょっとすると明日は合流できないかもしれない
I'll probably finish quickly, but I might not be able to meet up with you all tomorrow.
なあミオン
Does Mion already feel? Can Mion already tell what he's planning on doing? She's already got it. Hey, Mion.
明日の夜だけ聡子頼めないか
Could I leave Satoko to you? Just for tomorrow night? Mion took a long time to give a reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now. Like she was flustered by emotions. Or something. I mean, she has to know. She's not dumb. We know Mion's quite smart. And he literally came to her the other day and was like, hey, you know what would be cool? If, like, the uncle was chosen for the killing of the Wadanagashi festival. You know, just in case you happen to have any sway in saying who did. She has to know. There's guaranteed no chance she doesn't understand what he's talking about right now.
いや
Did I read that sentence? Mion took a long time to give a reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now, like she was flustered by emotions or something. No. Huh? Was that a sob? Mion, are you crying?
私嫌だって言ったじゃない
I said no. I don't want to.
私なんかに押し付けられても
don't want you to push this onto someone like me.
別に押し付けるつもりなんかないよ。
I'm not trying to push anything onto you.
明日の夜だけでいいんだ。
It's just for tomorrow night.
嘘だったじゃない。
That was a lie. What? Mion, what was she talking about?
綿流しの夜だけって言って、
Saying it's just for the night of Watanagashi.
結局ずっとだった。
And then it was forever.
嘘つき。
Liar.
でもおあいこかな。
But I guess we're even, huh?
私全然あなたとの約束守ってないから。
I couldn't keep the promise I made with you.
あの子はずっとほったらかしだしね。
I left her alone all this time. I had no idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly now talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in daze.
あれからずっと帰ってこないのに、あの子のことをもう一度押し付けるためだけにまた電話をしてきたんですね。
Is she like referencing the whole Satoshi situation? It's kind of vaguely. Yeah, I mean, she's like, so this goes back, if that's the case, then Mion is seeing the same Satoshi in Kechi. She's seeing the same situation repeat itself. She's like, damn. So Satoshi must have come to Mion, if we didn't already kind of assume that, and be like, hey, Satoshi came to Mion and was like, I'm going to do this again if I'm working with my theory that I thought, you know, Satoshi comes to Mion and says, I'm going to carry out this thing. You gotta watch. It's the same thing. It basically, we see Kechi probably mirroring exactly what Satoshi did the year prior. Say, hey, can you take her to the festival? And he was like, I'll come back, don't worry. And he didn't come back. That's a bummer. You never came back after that. And now you called me again to push her onto me.
本当にずるい人。
You're so unfair.
ねえ、あなた、サトシ君、なんでしょう。
Hey, you're Satoshi-kun, aren't you?
ミオン、さっきから何の話だ？
Mion, what are you talking about? When I said her name, whatever spell was on Mion was released.
あ、あ、
Ha 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 ha.
ごめん。
Just a slip of the tongue. I'm sorry.
なんでもないの。
It's nothing.
ちょっと、ケイちゃんの今の電話にそっくりな電話を昔受けたことがあって。
It's just that I got a phone call a lot like the one you're making now. A long time ago.
それ、ひょっとしてサトシか？
Was it from Satoshi? Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were sobs coming through the receiver.
ごめんね。
Sorry.
ちょっと私、寝ぼけてるみたい。
I think I'm still a little tipsy.
変なとこで感情的になっちゃった。
I got all weirdly emotional.
ごめんね。焦ったでしょ。
Sorry, I probably scared you. I had no idea how it happened, but I was pretty sure that last year, on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satoko to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did.
サトシ、祭りに行かなかったんだな。
Satoshi didn't go to the festival, did he?
うん。
Yeah.
用事があるから自分は行けないって言って。
He said he had something to do and couldn't make it.
代わりに私にサトコを祭りに連れて行ってくれって。
And he told me to take Satoko there in his place.
その時、サトシも言ったんだな。
At the time, Satoshi said it too, didn't he?
サトコを頼むって。
That he'd leave Satoko to you?
うん。
Yeah,
言ったよ。
he did.
明日の夜だけ頼むってね。
Just for tomorrow night.
ケイちゃんの言い方があまりにもよく似てたんで。
The way you said it was just like how he did.
ちょっと思い出して取り乱しちゃった。
I just got a little upset, caught up in a memory and all. I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. After that, Mion had said more. That he was lying. That he told her it would only be for the night of the festival.
そうだったな。
I get it.
サトシはその数日後に
A few days later, Satoshi, he disappeared. Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satoko.
そう。
Yes.
変更でもなく、家出でもなく、消えたの。
He didn't transfer or run away from home. He disappeared. And then, an idea far more indistinct than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi make the exact same call? If, in the truest sense, Hiro made the exact same phone call as I am right now, then the incident where their aunt was beaten to death, that's... could it?
サトシだ。
Was Satoshi...
え？
Huh?
何が？
What was that? Last year, Satoko had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt too. Her aunt abused her the most. And on that night, in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made perfect sense, didn't it?
去年、サトコのおばが殴り殺されたじゃないか。
Last year, Satoko's aunt was beaten to death, wasn't she?
あれ、サトシってことは考えられないか。
Would it be impossible for Satoshi to have... No, but that would mean... But then, Satoshi... He was a coward who abandoned Satoko and ran away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person, to save Satoko? It was unthinkable.
私も実はそれを疑ったことがある。
I actually considered that as well.
サトシには悪いけど、
That would be mean to Satoshi. A few days later, he disappeared. On Satoko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have run away on. But, now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother, related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why I couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt, beaten to death, was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He'd permitted a beginning to occur. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi. He wished for a return to peaceful days with Satoko, and though he achieved it for a time, he had been steadily driven into a corner. And then, he wanted to at least hold out until Satoko's birthday, but finally, they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he'd amassed to buy Satoko a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. He would buy the stuffed animal as her gift, and then get caught. Or he could use the money and disappear. That was a choice he had been forced to make. And he decided not to make Satoko the sister of a murderer. If that was the case, then it must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. Yeah, no, I'm you know what? I'm pretty proud of myself. Look at that. The streamer is actually using his brain a little, you know? All that money he'd saved wanting to see Satoko happy, he had to use it to make her sad. I just can't wait for the game to then turn this on its head and, like, me be completely wrong. Like, it's revealed that, like, all this theory is wrong somehow. Can't wait for that moment. Take back everything I said. All that money he'd saved wanting to see Satoko happy, he had to use it to make her sad. Oh, hey! What's up? He had to use it to make her sad, and he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo, if the rumors were true.
サトシはそれで消えたのか。
Was that how Satoshi disappeared?
それはわからない。
I don't know.
大石なんかはそう思ってるみたいだけどね。
That Oishi guy seems to think that way, though. Oishi. Had he been slowly driven into a corner by that repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit?
確かに状況証拠は揃ってるけど、多分ケイちゃんの推理は外れだと思う。
The circumstantial evidence is all there, but I think your deduction is wrong.
県内のどっかで捕まったろくでなしが犯行を自供したっていうし。
They caught some lowlife somewhere in the prefecture, and he apparently turned himself in for the crime. I was right. The deviant had confessed, and the incident was solved.
そいつは本当にただの異常者で、ひなみ沢とは何の縁もない男だったって。
They said he really was just a crazy person, and they had no ties to Hinamizawa.
もちろんサトシとも何の関係もない。
And no relationship with Satoshi, of course.
だからそんな奴がサトシの身代わりになって嘘をついてくれたなんて到底思えないし。
I mean, I have a pretty hard time believing the guy would lie in Satoshi's place. You couldn't just arbitrarily decide like that. You never know where or how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was a perfect crime. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish.
それにサトシには逃亡資金なんてなかったと思う。
What is my opinion on Kechi's mom? Not one greatly. I mean, I don't know. Was I supposed to garner anything more than like the fact that she loves murder mysteries? Apparently, we're learning more about fucking Kechi's deadbeat parents. We love to see character development. I did find the situation just funny because, like, I think I said at the time, but like, I don't know, if I was like if I was planning a murder, I wouldn't consult anyone about anything anywhere remotely related to the situation. I'd be too paranoid. My own mom, I ask like, hey, what makes the perfect crime? And then she just like freakishly like, she's like, yeah, you gotta kill someone so good that like they're not ever seen, because then beginning, middle, and end, the beginning doesn't happen. Thanks, Mom. And I also thought the scene was funny just because she was explaining that to him and he was just like, what does that mean? I don't understand. It's like, come on, Kechi. She's just saying, like, you just can't get caught, ever. You have to be so good. I don't know. It was funny. Mion says, plus, I don't think Satoshi had the kind of money to run away. That day, he withdrew all his savings. No matter who I tell this to, nobody believes me, but... That stuffed animal he said he was buying for Satoko? It was gone from the display, sold. It must have been Satoshi. Wait a minute. If he didn't use the money to flee and bought the stuffed animal instead, he would have gone back to Satoko, wouldn't he? How much can a stuffed animal cost? What is, like, are we talking about the exchange rate is 1-to-1 almost for big stuffed animal versus fleeing to Tokyo? Like, does that sound correct? Can I go to Tokyo, maybe possibly a one-way trip to Tokyo for the same exchange as a giant stuffed animal? Sounds weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. He would have gone back to Satoko, wouldn't he? Also, if he's already a criminal... Giant Snorlax. Sure, yeah. Those giant Pokemon plushes. Maybe... I mean, if he's already a criminal, if he already did some murder thing, I don't think it's crazy for him to say he just stole it somehow. Just goes into the shop, steals it, exits. It seems unbelievable he'd buy it and then disappear without giving it to her. Yeah. So, now I don't know what happened. It would be one thing if he had the money, but if he used all his savings on it, he'd be totally broke.
お金もなく逃亡生活ができるほど世の中は甘くないよ。
I can just imagine. you have your savings that you're gonna use to flee the country or flee the town or whatever, to like get out of like a murder situation. Like you murdered someone and then you see the stuff, like a giant stuffed animal, and you're like, I gotta buy that. I know the whole point is that he would be giving it away to Satoko, but still, longingly looking at a stuffed plushie. You want to buy it so bad after you murdered someone. Mion says you can't live a life on the run without money in this world. I didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on this topic.
ごめん。
Haha. Sorry.
どこで話が脱線しちゃったんだか。
I think we got off topic.
さとこの件ね。安心していいよ。
Satoko, right? Don't worry.
実はもうちゃんと誘ってあるんだよ。
Actually, I already invited her.
え
Huh?
本当かよ。
You serious?
祭りの準備でみんなで神社に行った時さ、さとこを祭りに呼ぼうって話になったんだよ。
When everyone went to the shrine to prepare for the festival, we started talking about getting Satoko to the festival itself.
それで集会所の電話でそのまま電話して誘ったんだ。
So then I used the phone at the assembly hall to invite her.
おじのやつ、よそよそしくて勝手にしろみたいな感じだったけど、とりあえず OK はしてくれた。
Her uncle was acting distant and didn't seem to care at all, but in any case, we got the okay from him.
明日みんなで待ち合わせしていくことになってるんだよ。
We decided to all meet up and go together tomorrow.
安心
Excuse
し
me,
た。
tomorrow. You okay with that?
さとし、
Satoshi? Oh, don't call me that.
バカ。俺はサトシじゃないって。
Oh boy. Stupid. I'm not Satoshi. I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call. Satoko had already been invited to the festival. And not in a way that smelled of blood. A way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself. So they invited her. In the end, it was the same, but I was happy for that slight difference.
すまないな。
Sorry.
俺が電話をするまでもなかった。
I guess I didn't need to call then.
昨日にしろ今日にしろ。変な話ばかりしてすまないな。
First yesterday, now today. Sorry for, saying such weird things.
忘れてくれ。
Just forget about it.
こっちこそ本当に申し訳ない。
No, I'm the one who should apologize.
柄にもなく取り乱しちゃって、
Losing it like that isn't like me.
本当にごめん。
I'm really sorry. We apologized to each other for a little
じ
bit.
ゃあ俺はこれで失礼するな。
Alright, I'll be going now.
おやすみ。
Good night.
何の用事？
What did you have to do? As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt.
それもまたサトシと同じように言えない？
Or is it like with Satoshi, where you can't say? Mion asking as if she doesn't already know.
バカ。
Stupid.
だから俺はサトシじゃないって言ってるだろ。
I keep telling you, I'm not Satoshi.
うん。
Yeah.
そんなのは分かってるよ。
Yeah, I know that. I deflected her, with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after that.
じゃあ今度こそおやすみな。
Alright, this time for real. Good night.
どうしてケイちゃんがサトシ君と全く同じ電話をしてきたのかわからないけれど。
I don't know why you're giving me the same phone call as Satoshi-kun did, but
うん、なんでもない。
yeah, never mind.
ごめんね。おやすみ。
I'm sorry. Good night.
切るぞ。
I'm hanging up. I love to end my phone calls with my friends by saying, I'm hanging up. Really drive home that I'm done talking. Click. Satoshi Hojo. Just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away, abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her Nini. But now I didn't know what to think. Oyoshiro-sama's curse on the 4th year, their aunt's death, and Satoshi's disappearance. And now, me trying to carry out Oyoshiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi. the day before the curse. No, that wasn't all. If we start, back from Satoko being abused, then I've been overlapping with Satoshi for days already. When I talked to Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. If that was the first impression a third party like Mion got, then it was probably true. Then as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi, more calculating. I could actually grow calmer the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out of the world, and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi had been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini even now? The kind worthy of Satoko's love. I never met him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him. I never felt that way before. Alright, well, a couple things I want to say about this. So, his perfect murder plan, already fucked. Because Mion, for sure, she knows it. Without explicitly saying, I know you're going to go, you plan on going to kill the uncle. She knows. I think he knows she knows. I think she knows he knows she knows. So, there is, even if he was to carry out the plan, there is someone out there who knows. So already that perfect thing that he was going for is already ruined. So, unfortunate. But I also don't know what, I mean, his plan was kind of fucked from the beginning because he's like, oh, I'm going to ask Mion. And now, did he know that this happened a year ago to her as well? No, he didn't know that was the thing. But also, he should have known Mion was, Mion's not dumb, you know? Would that really stop him? No, that's not what I'm necessarily saying. I'm not saying he's too far in at this point. I'm just saying he was so, in his mind, so careful about pulling out this perfect plan so that the story didn't have a beginning, right? And he kind of just blew it. He just unforced error, sort of, in a way. Not even unforced error. His plan just, unfortunately, wraps in someone. The only way this was going to get past Mion is if Mion was super dumb or something, but like, again, hindsight and all, but this happened to her apparently last year, and also Mion is not a fool. The other thing I wanted to say is I've been a big fan of this chapter 3 here, just how this has all like unfolded and like the layers have been like, I mean, heavy subject matter for sure, but I've been a big fan reading this chapter particularly. I feel like the other two have really set up this kind of thing, and then this has very much felt like a very, again, subject matter aside, a very fun chapter to like peel the layers on, you know? Oh, we got a book to read. For the attention of those on the housewife slaughter incident case. July something, 1982. Okinomiya Police Station, 1st Investigative Division. Chief Takasugi. Something Prefecture Police Headquarters for the eradication of drug-related crime. Shibone Branch Head, something. Regarding incident blank designed as undercover investigation. This message is to inform you that a section of testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found that is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okinomiya Police Station X, Hinamazawa Village housewife slaughter incident. During investigation of suspect blank blank, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was testimony alluding to the crime in question, and it became clear that it contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you, duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect blank blank was a perpetrator in the incident in question. In addition, on receiving this testimony, the head investigator on the case inquired as to the incident with the Okinomiya Police Station. but the responsible party at Okunomiya Police Station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as an undercover investigation by executive order from Prefectural Police Headquarters on July 1st, 1982, General Admission B112-12. They did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question, and as a result, was negligent when combing the scene. We apologize for having effectively ignored it until now. In addition, there's a postscript stating that suspect blank blank died while in confinement yesterday on redacted date. Great! Alright, let's read one more section. Maybe the murder is going to be taking place? Like I said, if I had to put my full money on it, I, for some reason, in my head, feel like this is set up where Kechi does not do the murder. For one reason or the other. My best bet, then, would be someone beats him to the punch. Again, could it be Irie? Could it be Mion? Could it be Satoko herself? You know what I mean? It's a long section. That's fair. That's fine. We have this early afternoon. It's been planned. It's been baked in. Unless it's like 5 hours, then we're in for a problem. Sunday. The fireworks I had heard before noon were probably to announce the opening of the festival. And the weather certainly wasn't festival weather. It was cloudy. The television forecast was calling for possible downpour starting this evening and lasting until around midnight. I didn't do my normal in-between like stretch sesh. So we might just pick like a weird, because that first section went by pretty quickly. So don't be surprised if we pick like a weird time at like in like 30 or 45 minutes to just take a little break. So that I can cough or get some water. The television forecast was calling for possible downpours starting this evening and lasting until around midnight. But as long as it wasn't raining at the moment, the festival would go on. The festival had to open, or it wouldn't begin. The Fruity Shrine grounds were probably decorated beautifully for the big performance that only happened once a year. Many paper lanterns were hung up, all in the auspicious colors of red and white. The sound of electric motors at the stalls, the voices of kids running around, their happy families watching them, smiling. Today was a festival of Watanagashi. Was everyone already partaking in the festivities? What about Satoko? Had she forgotten her days of suffering just for a few moments, while smiling that brilliant smile she hadn't in so long? This would probably be the longest day of my life. It would be a day I would remember vividly for as long as I lived. I told my parents I'd go to the festival this evening and lounged about during the early afternoon. We may have lived under the same roof, but they couldn't help being surprised by the deviation from how I usually spent my time. Glancing at my parents out of the corner of my eyes, I went to the front door. I tied my shoes just a little tighter than normal, as if to express the firmness of my resolve in those knots. When I decided to murder Satoko's uncle, oh boy, I was in such a state of excitement, I almost went crazy. When I was planning out the act of a murder, which went directly against all the morals fostered in me thus far, I was in such a state of calm I almost thought I had lost my emotions. And then, yesterday, when I learned Satoshi had made exactly the same phone call as me, I didn't know how to describe the muddled feelings I had then. And now, entering today. Right now, I lacked all the emotions I'd possessed until now. To make a simple analogy, it was the kind of feeling you might get right after you wake up, when you're still half asleep and you don't feel anything very clearly. I had no anger towards the man for the violence he committed against Satoko, nor did I feel sadness towards or sympathize with her. I felt no discontent towards my friends, who had just waited and watched, never reaching out to her with any help, and no nervousness or fear towards the day that had finally come. Yes, right now, You could say I was in the best possible condition for carrying out a murder. When it came down to it, I would probably need to let my violent emotions take control. But right up until that moment, I'd be like an insect. I would slowly, surely, and silently move towards my one objective. And then, when I had my prey, I'd attack like a bullet. There was no emotion in that. Just the creeping mindset insects possessed. That sort of sneaking feeling was just the best. I would kill Satoko's uncle like he was a worm. Damn. I had to laugh a little at thinking that way. Thinking like an insect. Tug. I tightened my laces one more time and walked out the door. I brought the shovel out of the front storeroom. I would need it to dig the man's grave. The shovel was a convenient one made for camping. If I twisted it like so and split it into 3, I could easily hide it in my bag. I twisted the shovel and dismantled it. And even though I'd done it countless times before, I had trouble for some reason. Like I was suddenly clumsy now. Oh, you can't be getting clumsy hands at a moment like this! It's murdering time. I knew why. It wasn't because I was nervous. My weak-willed self, deep within me, was hesitant. I knew that the act of dismantling the shovel was the first step I'd take to becoming a murderer. The last twist was conspicuously difficult, but it finally submitted before the strength of my determination. The area around Satoko's house was outside my circle of activity, but even just riding my bike in the middle of the day like this might seem suspicious to an observant person. I definitely want to avoid meeting and talking to someone I knew. With that in mind, I chose the route of my destination carefully. I didn't mind going a long way around. With how long this day would be, I could never be too careful after all. This music is very weird to pair with what's happening here. But maybe that's the point. Still, I was fortunate enough not to run across anybody on my way to the planned site of the crime. I wasn't superstitious at this point, but it was a good omen. The place I would dig into the hole was in this grove, a little further into the woods. I was worried I might not make it to the same place as before, since there were no signs to guide me, but I arrived there smoothly as expected. I took another look around. Not even a hint of human presence. The air was a little bit damp, but it was comfortable in the cool shade of the trees. I took the disassembled shovel out of my bag and began skillfully putting it together. Then, I stuck the tip of the shovel into a soft-looking patch of ground and pushed on it with my foot. The shovel would split into the earth if I put some strength into that foot. The act of doing so seemed awfully like the point of no return, and it made me hesitate. I was just digging a hole with a shovel, but it made me gulp hard. Calm down, Ketchimibra. Let's do a countdown. Get it done on the count of 3, okay? Alright. 1, 2. I couldn't do it on the countdown, despite it just sticking the shovel into the ground. And I had to count down 5 or 6 times. Damn it. Just digging a hole. This is pathetic. As I thought that, I put strength into my heel like I was stepping on something unpleasant, and split. Came the sharp noise. It was only soft at the beginning. Roots and stones quickly got in my way, informing me just how hard it was to dig a hole big enough for a person. No decent person would ever come here anyway. Maybe it'd be enough to cover him up with some dirt. Every time a naive thought like that crept into my mind, I bit down on it with my teeth and dug even harder. I've dug enough now. I could hide him like this. Every time I thought that, I would go down into the hole, grow disappointed at how shallow it was, and return to digging. The thin layer of sweat on my brow eventually formed into drops and fell to the ground. My back was in even worse shape. My damp shirt adhered to my skin, and it felt so disgusting. The things I couldn't stand the most were the mosquitoes. Maybe they were attracted by the scent of my sweat. The white and black striped mosquitoes would cling to me whenever I let my guard down. It was hot. It was disgusting. I was sticky. I was itchy. All those uncomfortable feelings surged through me in waves. Damn it all.
だからなんだってんだよ。やめて帰れってのか？
So what? Are you telling me to pack up and go home? Is that it? I hadn't yelled at anyone. It was me talking to myself, me telling myself something. Why was I feeling this way? Digging a hole all the way out here? What benefit would digging this hole give me? What harm would there be in not digging this hole at all? Wait, in the first place, who ordered me to dig? When I thought it over, maybe, ever since grade school, or even before that, my whole life had been me doing what other people told me to do. I didn't mean it was somehow constrained, living a life just based on the commands of others. And I didn't mean I was too lazy to try and find my own road in life. Metaphorically speaking, yes, it was like a road. I'd never been particularly physically fit. I didn't hit puberty very early, and all my classmates and I got in a line. I'd usually be the shorter end. Oh no. My scores in jump rope competitions and marathons were the very picture of average. And it wasn't like the captains of the dodgeball team would have a passionate rock, paper, scissors contest to see which would get me. During those kindergarten grade school years, it felt like someone was only worth how fast they grew and how fit they were. Looking back on it now, it was really uncomfortable for me. The thing that turned all that around was just a few words from my mother.
Keiichi?
Keiichi?
あなた、塾に入る気はない？
Would you like to go to a cram school?
学校の勉強がわかるようになって楽しくなるわよ。
You'll better grasp what you're learning in school, and it'll be more fun. The very first test I took at cram school was kind of like a game. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't like the tests with the same exact problems a dozen times in a row. Every question had a picture to it, almost like one of those puzzle books that came with manga magazines. If my studies at school had been like this, it would have been way more fun. Several days later, I went to the cram school again with my mother and the enrollment paperwork. Mom and the person at the cram school had a really long, heated discussion, so I accidentally dozed off and missed most of what they said, but I clearly remember one point. Mom had made a loud groan, surprised at something.
61って平均点が61点ですか？
By 61, do you mean his average score was 61 points?
いえ、違いますよ、お母さん。
No, not at all, Miss Mybra.
全国展開する当塾での平均偏差値が61です。
The deviation from the mean of all our cram schools across the country is 61.
簡易式の知能検査でも非凡な数字が出ています。
He's showing extraordinary numbers, even on a simple intelligence test.
まず申し上げて、前原圭一君は大変に頭がいい。
Oh, I've heard this before. Oh, it's the old classic. Oh, you've got a gifted student. I've seen this this trick before. First, I would like to say Akechi Maibaru-kun is extremely bright.
圭一が？
Keiichi?
でも学校では大した成績じゃありませんし。
But he doesn't have very good grades at school.
通信簿も2、3、4が適当に並ぶ平均的なもので。
He has average marks on his report card. B's, C's, D's.
何かの間違いではありませんか？
Is there some kind of mistake? Yeah, thanks for believing me, Mom. Jesus.
いくつかの知能テストとも重ねましたが、その結果、興味深いことが分かりました。
We cross-checked with several tests as well, and we learned some very interesting things as a result.
前原君は意味を持たない問題に非常に弱いのです。
Maibaru-kun is extremely weak when faced with questions that don't have any meaning.
無味乾燥で自身の生活に結びつかない内容の問題に興味が持てないのです。
He just has no interest in simple, dull questions that don't have to do with everyday life.
2+3は分からなくても、リンゴが2個あって3個増やしたら何個にという形なら理解できるということですか？
So, even if he doesn't know what 2 plus 3 is, if you told him he had 2 apples, then got 3 more, he would understand that sort of question?
その通りです。
That's right.
例えば、正六面体の展開図を書けと言われて混乱する圭一君も、サイコロを切り開いたらどんな形になる？
For example, instead of telling him to draw a flattened, foldable cube, what if we asked him what a die would look like when cut open?
というふうに聞けば、見事に答えられるのです。
If we did that, he could answer beautifully. Then the person from the cram school showed her a page from one of my exams I took. Or one of the exams. It was a paper with questions about construction. Construction questions were unusual, so they were really cool, weren't they?
正二十面体の展開図を書けという問題です。
In this question, it asked to draw an unfolded regular, oh boy, icosahedron. Sure, a shape with 20 faces.
この問題を二十面体のサイコロを作るにはどんな風に厚紙を切ればいい
When we rephrased it and asked him how he would cut out a piece of cardboard to create a 20-sided die,
と聞き直したら、圭一君はさも簡単そうにこれを書いてみせました。
Keshikun drew the answer as though it were easy.
これは平凡なことではありません。
This is not something an average child can do.
ケイチ、
Keiichi,
あなたどこかの本の雑誌の付録か何かで二十面体のサイコロを作ったことがあったの？
have you ever made a die with 20 sides from a magazine extra or anything? Dice only went from 1 to 6. I never even considered before this test that there were dice with more than 6 sides. So it was fun to imagine what kind of shape a die that went up to 20 would have. If I had a die like that, I could win at snakes and ladders against anyone. So I immediately wanted to make it. Finally, I entered cram school. There were only 4 students in the class they put me in, which was called Select. It was the highest class, and some of my classmates were in lower classes. And when I remembered how much better they had done at things like dodgeball and the 50-meter sprint, I felt happiness well up within me for the first time. Even if I wasn't as good at them physically, I triumphed over them in other ways. It was fun at first. The more I did, the more I was praised. My teachers at school suddenly started pampering me, and it felt good. My parents were satisfied too, and I enjoyed seeing them satisfied. The more I listened to my parents' commands, the more fun things got. That did happen, didn't it? I grinned dryly in self-deprecation. Because, well, my studious lifestyle didn't end up lasting very long. It was only at the beginning I enjoyed learning more and more. I gradually got along less with my friends. My classes were behind what I was learning in cram school, and I eventually stopped respecting the teachers, given that they could put me to sleep with their lectures. And, well, I was a disagreeable sort who bragged a lot about how much I knew. And the ways of the world wouldn't let me remain in that state of ecstasy forever. I would do as I was told, then I'd go above and beyond their expectations, and then they praised me. I was happy for that, and the cycle repeated itself like the wheels on a bike. I thought moving forward like that was how life worked, like a bicycle. When I moved to Hinamazawa, I realized just how inadequate it was. Some things happened, and we started saying how moving and getting a change in atmosphere would be nice. And then my father, he had a place that he liked, that he'd gone to a few times to draw the nature. He started saying that he wanted to bring his atelier there. Atelier. With me and in blank amazement, they decided to move to Hinamazawa. And after that, I met them, didn't I? The first day after transferring here, I went to the classroom with the teacher. I thought it would seem pitiful for her to bring me in there, so placed my hand on the door before she could, slammed it open, and set foot into the room. Clatter. The thrilling, powerful way I opened that door was none other than my own determination to try doing my life once again, or over again. And then, within seconds, that determination took a hard counter to the face. A blackboard eraser fell on me. Plus, there was a huge rock inside. It was a supremely painful trap someone had set up. Oh, come on. Satoko was already beating me right from the first day I transferred? That frightened me. I was bewildered. The class was surprised too. I wasn't just surprised that the students in the class were all in different grades and were different genders. It was because the room felt completely different from the schools I knew. And as I spent more time with them, my surprise continued to grow. This fresh sense of surprise had never left my life, even to this day. Every day was a fresh new surprise. I've never had a single boring day since coming here. The days were lively, spent with some other club members, or with the other club members. We played Old Maid with cards with scratches on the back to cheat. We let all our passions go wild during our games. We went all out as regular participants in tournaments at the toy store in town, and many, many more things. Recently, during those times, there was the bento competition. It was then. That's when I saw an unexpected side to Satoko. Thinking back on it, I only ate dinner with her 2 nights. It was such sweet, gentle time spent, and it warmed my heart remembering it even now. I realized that Satoko was pretending to be stubborn and firm, and how brave she was. Part of her heart was always waiting for her Nini to come home. And I vowed to become her Nini. Satoko may have been nagging and overly critical, but she knew how to take care of someone. But though it might have seemed like she was taking the lead, it was actually her way of depending upon another person. Even if Satoshi and Satoko's lives as siblings were confined by their uncle and his wife, they were still warm, sunny days. When did those sunny days all go wrong? What mistake was made? Lamenting tragedies of the past would do no good, and I told myself that so many times, but I did it anyway. Keiichi, isn't that why you chose your own path? To take back that life? Nobody ordered you to do this. You decided it on your own. You don't desire anyone's praise for this. You thought it all through yourself. You'll carve it out yourself. And you'll do it now. This wasn't a path I could see very far down, not like the road parents or society could offer. It was a narrow path, dark and utterly distressing, one for which the next step would always be shrouded in darkness. But that disheartening path would keep on going forever. It was an unlimited path, and there was nowhere I couldn't travel. The kind of path only available to those able to imagine where they wanted to go. Don't be ashamed at breaking from the brightly lit, paved road. In fact, feel proud that you found your very own path to walk. It's a great sentiment. I think it's supposed to be the dichotomy then between him saying this and realizing all this, and him being like, yeah, that path I'm carving out for myself, fucking murder, dude. It's good. It's great. And I hadn't discarded the paved road either. Once I achieved my goal, I would go back to that bright road, and then I'd spend those average sunny days at my leisure. Crush. When I next realized it, the hole had grown so deep I couldn't believe it. Did I dig all this myself?
これだけ掘れば十分じゃないか。
I think digging this much is enough, right? I put my shovel into the bottom of the hole. I would drag the body here, throw it into the hole, and cover it up with dirt. Even if it took me time to camouflage it by putting plants on top, it would all go much more easily than digging this hole had. I glanced at my watch. It was almost evening, and I hadn't realized it. I may not have felt the time passing, but digging a hole this deep must have taken quite a lot of time. I took a seat on a slanted rock nearby and wiped the sweat from my brow. Now, once it got a little darker, I'd go get the metal bat I hid in the schoolyard. Then I'd make the call to lure him out. And then, I'd do it. The number of things I needed to do to reach that moment were dwindling. I felt that moment closing in on me much more keenly than I did the passage of time. The other thing that I could now just already imagine and envision happening is not someone beating him to it, but him trying to go do the murder, and somehow Oishi stops him. I don't know how, but he just seems to have the keen ability on just appearing at the most inopportune of times. Especially for our characters here. What if he's like, somehow stops him, he sees him about to murder. I felt that moment closing in on me much more keenly than I did the passage of time. I didn't have any hesitation, but I still feel that contradiction. At every step in this process, I had a few chances to hesitate, to turn back, to let myself lose my nerve. Having to endure those million temptations and wait for when the time was right was an indescribably slow and painful torture. I thought myself acting all weak because of that, but I stopped midway through. This was okay. It was fine. I could detest the abnormal act of homicide as much as I wanted, and it didn't matter. I wasn't going to be a cutthroat killer after today. I would pass through this strange day and go back to the world I was in before. If I felt a level of a psychopath who thought nothing of killing, I wouldn't be able to go back to my old life. so this was fine with me. I didn't have to feel ashamed at hesitating to kill, because I was human. It was so funny to me that I'd be the bearer of Oyashiro-sama's curse at the same time I was aware I was human. I exhaled lightly and stood. I concealed my presence and sharpened my senses in all directions to search for anyone around but me. Okay, let's go. One step at a time. I would walk my own path. A path no one had forced me to walk.
行くぞ
Let's do this.
前原圭一
Catch you, my bro. The cicadas made an annoying fuss. Their chorus covered up the suspicious noise of me breaking twigs underfoot. And their chorus filled the path far ahead of me, letting me know I'd be alone for some time. The cicadas blessed the path I walked, encouraging me with every last ounce of strength they had. The sky was far above. In not even an hour, the veil of night would draw near, and the sky would be tinted with dusk. By that time, the Higurashi would let me hear their chorus in place of the cicadas. When that happened, would everything be over with? Would everything have ended? I said something along those lines when I left Satoko's fate up to a public agency. But this time, it was different. I would do it. I would carry it out. I would end it. It would all be over very soon. Everything would end. Yes. When the Higurashi cried, "Ah, yeah!" Title drop. Oh shit, I missed the that went to evening. Ah. Perfect. I couldn't pull the scream off very well. There was nobody at school. I couldn't hear the playful voices of children. This was the first time I'd seen the school with such a lack of human presence. Still, I quieted my breath and looked around, not wanting to be unprepared. It had gotten darker outside, but it was almost like my eyes could see more clearly now. I made absolutely sure of my safety, then walked to the heavy construction machine I'd hidden the metal bat behind. I had a tinge of worry, a premonition, that someone had found the bat and hidden it somewhere else as a prank. If that happened, would I take that as opportunity to desist? If it really wasn't there, then the sensation of chilled metal, it was still here where I left it. It hadn't run away. Satoshi hadn't run away. He'd waited here patiently. For me.
待たせたな、サトシ。
Sorry for the wait, Satoshi.
いよいよだが、覚悟はいいか？
It's been a long time coming. You prepared for this? Question mark. Through the metallic touch, Satoshi grins at me in my mind. That's what I should be asking, you know. I did this last year already. You should be more worried about yourself.
上等だぜ、サトシ。
Right on, Satoshi.
目に物を見せてやろうぜ。
Let's show him a bad time. Satoshi's bat got lighter and lighter, and fit into my hands like it was being absorbed. It didn't feel wrong to swing this. I could move it around so naturally it was like an extension of my own right arm. Of course it felt like that. Satoshi and I were holding one bat together. Next, I would make the call to lure the man out. It wasn't a bad time for it. My friends were doubtlessly parading happily through the stalls. I hadn't considered where to make the call from. My house and Satoko's were pretty far apart. If I called him from my house, I wouldn't make it. Sorry. Couldn't I use the school phone? But, as I thought, the room was locked up and I couldn't get in. Shit. I'm so naive. You should have at least figured this part out. I couldn't call him. And just for that, was today already over? Could you imagine just giving up at this point? I'm sorry, Satoshi. Just as I cursed my own naivety, a miracle occurred. A bicycle came into the schoolyard. It was a familiar middle-aged man. The one from the Forest Service field office. Why? Wasn't today Sunday? Was he here to pick up something he forgot? Anyway, forest officer went around back and went around in his pocket, then unlocked the door and entered. The best possible coincidence. and it had to be Satoshi who saved me. The metal bat, through just my contact with it, told me this was a chance I couldn't allow to slip by. The sections for the forest office and the school were neatly separated. I felt the man head into the forest office's storehouse, which was so far in the back students weren't allowed into it. The door didn't match its fittings well, so it didn't close all the way, and the gap in the door opened slowly as if to lure me in. I took a deep breath and went in. I tiptoed along silently and stealthily and made it into the teacher's lounge. That wasn't the only place with a phone. As I held... Did I read that right? That was the only place with a phone. Yeah, I was like, that didn't make sense. As I held my breath in the teacher's lounge, I heard the Forest Service officer walking back over, and the back door clattered shut and was locked. I glanced out the window at the schoolyard and watched as a man got on his bike like nothing had happened and rode out the school gate. The school once again emptied, becoming deathly silent. I waited for a bit to make sure the silence was the real deal, then reached for the telephone on the principal's desk. I fished Satoko's house phone number out of my pocket. Yes, the number in the class directory for Satoko had been the one from their house now, where she lived with her uncle. I touched the dial with my fingers, and then thought for a moment about what to say exactly when he picked up. Despite how many times I'd gone over it in my head last night, now that I had my finger on the dial like this, it started to seep out of my mind like a cracked bucket leaving water. Leaking water, even. Simple would be best. More importantly, to say it straight and not sound suspicious. I counted off 3 heartbeats and spun the dial. Oh, I hope he does like an old person impression. The call sounded. Would Satoko's uncle pick up? Now, of all times, the hope that he wouldn't pick up, and the feeling of doom and the knowledge that I couldn't save Satoko if he didn't, whirled around in a vortex. Hello? It was the voice of a grumpy man, like he had just woken up. He picked up. Hello? Say your name so I know you're Hojo, you asshole. It would be terrible if I got it wrong. I made up my mind. I had all the initiative on my side. Here we go. This is the Shishibone Okinomiya police station. Am I speaking to the Hojo residents? I was changing my voice, but did you really think I sounded like an adult? Would he believe I was the police?
Hi.
Oh, yes.
Hojo desu kedo.
This is Hojo. We currently have your daughter, Satoko Hojo, here with us.
Eh?
What?
Satoko ga?
Satoko? What did that brat do? He fell for it. I could tell by how tense he was that he didn't doubt my words. I can explain the particulars once you have arrived here. Would you mind coming to the station right away? Right now? I already took a bath myself. So I don't really want to go out like this, though. What? You don't want to come because you already took a bath? Yes, right away. Right away. Jeez, man. What the heck did Satoko do? I'll explain once you're here. I will be waiting. Thank you for your assistance. 1 second. I don't know where the police station is. Where am I going? You moron. What the hell? Okinomiya police station? I don't know where it is either. Aren't you from around here? Why don't you know that? A greasy sweat came over my body. Eventually, just as I was about to choke, he spoke. Just tell him to use Google Maps or something, it's fine. It's totally fine. Oh, next to the fire station, right? That's pretty far. Thank goodness. He remembered on his own for me. I didn't care where the police station was, as long as he left his house to get there.
ではお待ちしていますので。
Then we will be waiting here.
あ、
Oh,
あ、
wait.
俺警察行ったら誰んとこ訪ねればいいんよ。
Who am I asking for once I get there?
あんた名前は？
What is your name? On top of that, you want to know my name? Just leave your goddamn house already.
前橋と申します。
Oh man, he already almost slipped up. Maebashi.
では失礼します。
Excuse me. That was close. I almost thoughtlessly told him my real name. I managed to change the last syllable of it, but I put the receiver down like I was running away. My fingers were trembling, and I was soaked with a tepid sweat. I wasn't just nervous about the phone call. With that call, everything had finally been put into motion. I left the school. It was locked before, but it was easy enough to open from the inside. But I couldn't lock it again after I left. Oh, he can't create a closed box closed door murder, whatever. In terms of being in terms of being thorough, I wanted to lock it, but I couldn't waste time going back to the teacher's lounge and looking for the key. I needed to rush back fast as I could and ambush him. I zoomed back to the scene on my bike. Closed room murder. Thank you. I'm so wrapped up in reading this that then when I went to try to make the half joke, I was like, I just like just words were just pouring out of my mouth and mind. I was like, I could not come up with the term. God. Okay. I'm such in like reading mode that like I was firmly out of talking mode. I zoomed back to the scene on my bike. If Satoko's uncle got out of town before I got there, everything would be over. He'd learn. I'm sorry. He learned there was no one at the station named Maebashi, and things would get pretty messed up. As I returned at full speed, I passed a family wearing yukatas. They must have been on their way to the festival. Many people in Hinamizawa knew my face, though I didn't know theirs. Even just passing by them like this made me uneasy. But I didn't generally come around here, so those living in the area might not have known much about me. That didn't matter right now. I needed to get back as fast as possible, to control my breathing, and ambush the man. I hid my bike in a thicket, and picked up Satoshi's bat, which I just left behind in the shade. And then I held my breath, waiting to see someone. I wondered if he still hadn't gotten here. Or maybe he went right out after the phone call and passed by here already. I couldn't figure out which it was, and set upon by an indescribable impatience. Calm down, Ketchumabra. Even if he came here already, he'd pass by here on the way back, right? The end result would be the same. It wouldn't change the fact that he'd die. He'd probably be coming on his motorcycle. How would I stop him then? I figured it would be best not to... You just gotta tackle him. Just tackle him. Full speed tackle. I figured it would be best not to think too hard and just hit him as he passed, or beat him out of his seat. The path was made of pebbles. If I hit him as hard as I could and made him lose his balance, he wouldn't be able to help falling. And then, the chorus of the Higurashi stopped. The sound of a bike approached from far away. Oh god, it's happening. I couldn't tell what sort of motorcycle it was from its sound, but I'd seen it parked before, so I'd know. It was getting rapidly closer. It was almost here. If he just went a little farther, he'd cross into that thicket and appear in front of me. I'd take a moment to make sure it was him. And then when I had, I put my plan into action. The motorcycle appeared. A few easily identifiable characteristics told me it was Satoko's uncle's bike, without a doubt. Was it really him? Was it really Satoko's uncle? I wasn't making a mistake, was I? I looked at its characteristics again. Its color, shape, and most of all, the man's clothes. And face! Those last feelings of hesitation, I did away with them. Satoko, now, your Nini will end it, okay? Closer, closer. The bike came closer. Let's go. Satoshi? Holy shit. Yeah. Oh, he's being talked to by Satoshi. The spirit of Satoshi is possessing me to murder! Sorry, it's a very real moment happening. I'm making light of it. Whoosh. I jumped out of the thicket. I used my shoulder to basically tackle the uncle on the bike with all of my might. Oh, I'm ready to see this struggle happen. Whoa! He gave a dumb shout as his bike completely lost its balance. Finally, it fell, the bike scattering clouds of sand, and after spinning, it stopped. Oh man, I'm gonna have to read a murder happen. Her uncle, tossed to the ground, didn't understand what just happened, and groaned for a few moments, crouched on the ground. Huh. My breathing started to become ragged. No, couldn't have this emotion. Some weird secretion crossed through my brain and nearly made me hallucinate. Okay. Her uncle was groaning. That was the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What was I doing? All the sounds in the world cut off. My mental chaos from a moment ago withdrew like a lie. I could feel the temperature in my head rapidly cooling down. The tension in my muscles all went away like the strings they'd been attached to had been cut, and I let my hands dangle at my sides. It wasn't quite like exhaustion. Have you calmed down now? Catchy, my bro? Do you need to remember again why things got to this point today? Scrape. Scrape. I stepped over the pebbled path, taking one step, another step, then another towards Satoko's uncle. The more I walked, the more my breathing calmed. The more I walked, the more I felt my body cooling, calming, chilling with frost. Yes. At this moment, this guy had lost permission to live. I had just rescinded it. So he mustn't stay in this world any longer. If he lived any longer, if Satoko's misfortune continued, it would be my responsibility for having allowed him to live. I could feel the cooling substance going through my whole body, even down to my capillaries. Her uncle was at my feet now, still on the ground like an idiot. I smiled coldly at how ridiculous he looked. Hurt! That's all it took for it to hurt. Satoko's heart hurt much more, and now you're gonna feel that. And, with your life, I'll make up for her pain. I erased all unnecessary information from my mind. I prioritized the murder of this man. Execute, execute, execute. Wham! Come on. Utterly calmly, I delivered my first strike to the back of his head. I wanted to get at the most effective spot, at least during that first moment. I'd have to attack him while he was at his most defenseless. And if he was hit in the head, he'd cover his head. It was a defensive reaction all humans made, like machines. He used both hands to cover his head. He used both hands to cover his head, yeah. So he couldn't pick himself up off the heap he was on the ground. Like pounding a caterpillar into the dirt, I hit him over and over. If he covered his head, I'd hit him in the side. If he covered his body, I'd go for his head. If he rolled over, I'd strike his feet, his knees, his elbows. I didn't care where anymore. By just delivering one blow after another, I induced panic in him. I retained my overwhelming advantage, but I had him done nearly enough to deliver a fatal wound. Her uncle skillfully pulled himself up off the ground and started to run like a fleeing rabbit. It wasn't a judgment he'd made after seeing my face and deciding whether to fight me. Right now, he's fleeing by instinct, just trying to escape from the threat that had presented itself. A counterattack from the more physically capable uncle was what I was most concerned about. He may have run, but it wasn't all that unlucky. And the odds were in my favor. The uncle didn't run away towards people, but off the path and into the woods. Oh man, is he gonna run into one of Satoko's traps? Is it gonna be like poetic justice? Oh boy. Alright, how pleasant that he would run in a direction where nobody else was. He was fleeing into strange geography, like a rat that instinctively runs into tight spots over and over. Yes, he was no longer human. He was a rat. The blood vessels in my legs expanded, and my total oxygen supply increased. I lowered myself to gain the most explosive velocity I could. Without breathing, I became a wind-like shadow, and dashed. I crossed thickets, crushed dead tree branches underfoot, and dove through the woods like a bullet. He ran so cowardly, arms flailing as he went. After catching up to him, I didn't need so much as a blink of an eye to strike him again. My senses, mind, and body were all sharpened purely to kill this man. This was the first time I felt like this. Well, this is the first experience I'd ever had killing someone. It felt natural continuing to do this for the first time. And that meant I had this much talent for killing. Or perhaps active killing was so simple that anyone could do it. I didn't struggle or grow tired at all chasing the clumsily fleeing uncle. No matter how much he ran, it was like trying to get away from his own shadow. Couldn't get away from me. I could easily aim at his back, his shoulder, and his head even from this unnatural stance. Each time I struck him, he wailed in pain and begged pitifully for forgiveness, but it didn't disturb my mind. I was neither excited nor plagued by hesitation like before. I felt sharp. I felt like a carnivore. Of course, so did the uncle, who was trying to run away because he didn't want to die. He didn't want to be eaten, like a herbivore running away with all its might, trying to get away. Despite all the attacks, despite all the hits, kept on fleeing without even staggering. And despite the bad footing in the forest, he impressively never tripped over anything. But there was no need to admire that fact. It was simply proof that he was no more than an animal. If he was chased, he would run. If he was going to be killed, he would run. He bared his fangs at the weak, but couldn't dispose the strong whatsoever. He was lowly, vulgar, a diminutive animal. Such a puny little creature had harmed Satoko. Scar after scar to her body and mind, deep wounds that might not ever go away as long as she lived. Oh. My cold and calm emotions suddenly turned into bestial ones. My personality changed into something specialized for murder, purely to devour the diminutive animal before me. The uncle gave a puny little shriek, covered his head, and ran. I'm impressed by how much you can run. Fine, run as much as you like. I will be your death. Now, I hate to break into this section, and maybe, you know, if we're talking about, like, his body defenses just instinctively run away. I feel like the running away is not working, Uncle. If I was to give one critique to your defense here, I think you gotta fight back. You gotta at least attempt something. You gotta at least try to take the kid on. I know he's got a bat, he's got a weapon, and you don't, most likely. But you gotta use your size. And try. Fight back for your life and not just try to run away. Okay, that's not working. I will be your death. I will choose the moment at my leisure. Your legs will hurt. Your lungs will feel about to burst. Your head will hurt from lack of oxygen. If you feel the pain has become worse than death, then by all means, stop any time. Without turning back, suffocating on his terror of the approaching death, he just ran shamefully onward. He ran, but was chased, his head bashed with the metal bat, sweat and drool flying everywhere, blood clinging to him. From his mouth came the sounds of coarse, irregular breathing and high-pitched screaming that verged on crying. Also, can't wait for us to read for like another 20 minutes of this murder take place, and then this was in the mind of Kechi. This is like a nightmare or a dream he was having the night before. It didn't actually happen yet. From his mouth came the sounds of coarse, irregular breathing and high-pitched screaming that verged on crying. And pleas for forgiveness to someone I didn't know who. Each and every second was a second of atonement that I granted him. Now, run. Then fall and moan and die. Where did you even crawl out of anyway? You were never here before. If you were never here, you never should have showed up. If you never showed up, our lives would still be fun and enjoyable. We would have gone to today's festival, waited for each other, and gone to the shrine laughing. We would have been playing amongst the stalls right about now. We'd be browsing the strange food stalls you only saw at festivals, trying to get prizes from goldfish scooping, ring throwing, or target practice. Mion would surely make it into a competition, and we, as a club, would have a grand time. And everyone had been cheering for Rika-chan's dedication dance, and everyone would say how fun it was, and it would give us energy for days to come. Fun, enjoyable, and funny. Warm times spent with friends. And that would have happened. But it didn't, and now it was all smashed to pieces. There's no doubt that would be what the world was like if you never showed up. You were the obstacle, the mistake, the heresy in that world. But I would correct that mistake now. I would erase you and make it so this last week never happened. Tonight was the Watanagashi Festival, the holy night, where taking just one life was permitted in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse. The Purge. Ah, it looked like the Higurashi stopped crying at some point. When the Higurashi cried, everything would end. And the Higurashi silenced. Lowly one, the hour of atonement is at an end. The Higurashi have stopped their crying. Thus, it is the end. The end. The end. The end. End. You don't have to run away anymore. Die with those dirty brains of yours smashed everywhere. Whoa! I'm not gonna scream. Lightning and thunder struck like an explosion. It was so loud it shook the ground, and I smelled gunpowder. The response I got this time was clearly different from the one before. The metal bat crunched into the crown of his head. Jeez. It was like the top of his head had caved in. The bat felt like it was biting him. It had been the final killing attack that visited him, and I didn't overlook the opening he left as his knees gave out under him. I remained alert for a few moments. Then thud. Thud. He planted both knees in the ground, and then fell forwards, burying his head in the ground. I've been holding back my ragged breathing, but now it all came out of me like a dam bursting. My head was dizzy and light, and unable to maintain my balance, I leaned against a nearby tree. The uncle didn't try and guard his head any longer. After a disgusting sort of spasm, he stopped moving. Did I get him? Did I get him, for sure? I fought back my exhausted urge to fall over where I stood, and drew towards him carefully, bat still at the ready. It was possible he was faking it and trying to wait it out. Should I check for a pulse? I realized right away, though, how unnecessary that would be. If I thought he might be faking it, then I would just have to keep pummeling him until I was satisfied. I fought back my ragged breathing again, and then I swung my bat far above. I accidentally skipped something and brought it down. Clunk. His body leaped like a bow, but he didn't try and cover his head. Or his body leaped like a bow. Bow. Then, once again, I aimed for his head and swung. His reaction was the same this time. After spending a few moments making his head into mochi. Oh, that's visually bad. Oh, the hits gradually started to feel different, and it started to spray a filthy, dark red liquid everywhere. That was enough. It was definite now. I had absolutely killed him. There was no sense of accomplishment, nor one of regret. I didn't feel anger towards Satoko's uncle, nor pity towards Satoko herself. Instead, right now, I was feeling like my heart had been stolen by the downpour. It had begun to rain at some point, and how comfortable it felt. The rainwater drenched my body and dripped down to the ground. The excitement within me faded as the rain washed away the grime. In exchange, my shoes, were so wet they made splashing sounds. And despite abusing Satoshi's bat like that, it wasn't bent very much. There were a few dents in it, probably from hitting the man, but nothing that would make it seem different from before. Instead, it had been stained with black, with red, with mud and blood. But that itself would be evidence. The one piece of evidence needed to prove that my delusions hadn't just been daydreams, and that I'd ended Satoko's uncle for all eternity. Alright, Kichi. Calm your mind. The time for passion is over. Now is the time to be cold as ice. I needed to bury the body. But where was I? I'd simply followed the man as far as he ran into the darkness. Oh, fuck. I couldn't take a guess as to how far we'd run. It was already pitch black around us, and the only light I had to go on was the very faint lights on the road a little further down. It was so dark out. I hadn't noticed the darkness until just now. My vision was so good I could see the man's ugly hairline. Could have counted the pores on his head. It was only now that I realized how much crazy strength I had mustered at that moment. I went over to the street light. The constant rain, sound effect just brings a lot of, memories of Umineko to me. And how often it was, raining, during, especially during, the heaviest moments during Umineko. Memories. I went over to the street light. I looked up and down the road, desperately trying to figure out where I was. This is... Oh no. This was the one road connecting Hinamazawa to the town. We were unbelievably far away from Satoko's house. Had the two of us really run so far a distance? My surprise at that was accompanied by knowledge of the miraculous fact that despite running so far and making so much noise, we didn't come across anybody at all. There was a long way between here and the ambush location where I dug the hole. There was no way I could carry the body that far. Wait, aside from that, the bike the man took here was still lying in the middle of that path. That would be an issue. Police could tell whose motorcycle it was by looking at its license plate. And they wouldn't just leave it at that. Thankfully, the corpse was in a dark forest. In terms of urgency, dealing with the bike would come first. And I'm going to get the shovel back from where I'd left it next to the hole. I shouldn't drag the body there. I would have to deal with it right here. Fortunately, the ground was like mud from the downpour, and was more sludgy here than where I was before. I might be able to dig a grave quickly here. Of course, my bicycle was still over where I'd left it too. It still wasn't over. Homicide had only been half my goal. The other half would be just as important as the first. I would completely hide the body, not allowing a beginning to happen. I would erase the man like he never existed, and regain the peaceful times we had before. I bent my head backwards, and calmed my mind even further. The big water droplets struck my brow mercilessly. They were actually quite comfortable, and for a while I let my desire have its way. After confirming that I was sharp again, I started running through the rain. The motorcycle was in the grass at the roadside. Considering how it looked, pelted with rain and covered in mud, it actually seemed like it had been lying there for a very long time. The plan was to drop the motorcycle into the swamp. The swamp was a bit of a walk from here. I lifted the bike up. I didn't think it would be so heavy. I was a little surprised. But once I had it upright, it was fairly easy to roll it along. Still, pushing this thing all the way to the swamp was really not something I wanted to do. I could no longer ignore my exhaustion, and it warned me numerous times of how far away the swamp was. This motorcycle. I wonder if I could ride it well enough. Once I got it going, it'd be basically the same as a bicycle. Wouldn't it get me to the swamp quickly? A plan suggested by my exhaustion. The anxiety at getting on a motorcycle for the first time withdrew. I turned the key, and then you just kick this pedal, right? Yeah. Vroom. It's on. And then I gripped the handlebars. First the right, then the left. Ah! Maybe I twisted them too much. The bike lurched and I did a wheelie like an angry horse. Ah, classic first-time motorcycle rider mistake. You get a little reaction, then in reaction you grip the handlebars harder, and then it just goes faster, and then it's the problem. I lost it for a second, but it was just a problem of how much torque to apply. Let's try that again. This time, slowly, gently. That time it went well. It was strange to be on a two-wheeled vehicle that would go even if I didn't pedal. Very odd, but I got used to it quickly. Mion once told me you could get a scooter license within a day, and she was clearly right. This was pretty easy. I needed to throw the metal bat into the swamp too, but I didn't know how I would pack the bat into the motorcycle. Without much other choice, I stuffed it into the back of my shirt, feeling like a ninja carrying a katana. If I put the tip down the seat of my pants and hunched over, it wouldn't fall out. I got back on the bike and, this time, got going without any difficulty. I carefully pressed the button labeled light, and a rather strong light came on, illuminating the way forward. I probably really shouldn't have turned it on, but I didn't have any way of seeing at this point, and had zero confidence I could ride through with this darkness. As the rain came down on me, just like the fucking Hillary Duff song, I maintained a precarious balance and inched my way towards the swamp. Along the way, I ran across a few people who seemed to be returning from the festival. But none of them had any interest in me. They were either all soaked through with the rain and hurrying on their ways home, or had their umbrellas low and their heads down. I'm really glad someone understands the Hillary Duff song I'm referencing. What a bop. What a tune. I agree. But none of them had any interest in me. They were either all soaked through with the rain and hurrying on their ways home, or had their umbrellas low and their heads down. Yesterday, I might have been wary of even those passerby, but right now, didn't seem to be much cause of concern. In fact, it'd probably be less suspicious to be riding out in the open like this instead of sneaking around. More and more, though, I started to think of this idea as naive, brought on by my exhausted state. I climbed a steep hill. On a bike, the hill would have put me out of breath, but I just had to accelerate a little bit to climb the entire thing. Motorcycles sure are convenient. For a moment, its lights illuminated a sign before I passed by it. Onikafuchi Swamp / good children do not play around here. Still, it wasn't like the way the swamp was cordoned off by a metal fence or anything. Parents and teachers would get mad at you if they found out you were playing at the swamp, but some of the bad kids in my class apparently snuck out here sometimes to see the giant crayfish in the place. They talked before about how they'd go to the candy shop and buy some pickled squid, then just tie it to a fishing line and throw it, and all the crayfish would come running. Once I got up to the bank, there was a tiny ritual shrine and traditional ropes on one of the trees. And, as it swallowed the downpour whole, the blackened swamp had waited for me. If I slammed on the accelerator from the cliff, like the cliff-like stop I was on now, the thing would fly straight into the middle of the swamp. I had to be careful not to fall in with it. Oh, that would be... Could you imagine? He just rides the motorcycle into the swamp and doesn't, like, get off of it, and just him and the swamp or him and the bike just slowly sink into the swamp. Never to be seen again. What a way to go. If I drowned and disappeared, man, what a stupid ghost story that would be. On the night of Wada Nagashi, Satoko's uncle's corpse was found in a thicket by the road leading to town, and Kechimibara went missing. People would whisper that I'd been demoned away. The 5th year's curse would be a half-baked one. I got off the bike and twisted the accelerator as hard as I could. I let go just when it seemed like it would drag me forward. The bike shot off the cliff and was swallowed down into the swamp, leaving a far fainter splash than I'd imagined. Its surface was being pummeled Pummeled by the downpour, and the muddy, filthy water was flowing into it. I couldn't even make out the motorbike I'd just thrown in there. It was pretty heavy after all. It would be quickly engulfed by the soft mud at the bottom of the swamp. And it would be pulled deeper and deeper until it reached hell itself. I felt no reluctance whatsoever in throwing the man's motorbike down to the land of the demons, but did have a tinge of regret about Satoshi's bat. I washed the bat with muddy water, and the gore sticking to it came off easily. I had sort of shared today's events with Satoshi, so wanted to give it a quiet place to stay. That's how I felt. I started to feel more like returning it to locker from before, so I could continue to keep watch over Satoko.
サトシ
Satoshi,
俺多分お前のこと誤解してた
I probably, well, misunderstood you. Satoshi listened quietly, without nodding. I am absolutely convinced now. You were the one who beat your aunt to death last year and saved Satoko. I always scorned you and called you a coward who ran away, but I was wrong. To the rest of the world, some deviant was behind that incident. But I know. That was something you did for her. And then, you disappeared. You finally got back that peace, and lost it within days. So, I swear to you that I will live life to the fullest from now on. Live it enough for the both of us. I will live on as though this week, this day, never happened. But I will never forget the short time we shared together for as long as I live. I can't help but think that, like, what's gonna end up happening is we're told so far that Kechi's life and his execution of this person that's harming Satoko is mirroring that of Satoshi so much. Satoshi's story was he took out the aunt, he was just in society for a couple days, made it to Satoko's birthday, and then peaced out somehow. I can't help but think that the same thing is going to happen to Kechi here. He's going to think that he just, maybe just like how Satoshi maybe thought like he was going to be able to do. He's going to do the murder here. It's going to be a couple days, and then something's going to get him, or something's going to force him to leave. Against his will, maybe. I can't help but think that something's going to happen. Because the mirroring of Satoshi's situation from just a year ago is being so heavily referenced and everything, and just how similar it is. Good intentions. Well, I mean, murdering's not good intentions, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, but I will never forget the short time we shared together for as long as I live. I didn't know what expression Satoshi made as he listened, but as someone who had protected the same girl, I felt we had smiled and given me his blessing. And then, my hand moved on its own accord, and the bat I'd hesitated to throw away left my hands and flew through the air. Oh shit, it's like a phantom pain, or Satoshi's controlling my body. It traveled its parabolic path, spinning all the while, and the swamp absorbed it without a sound. There weren't even any ripples when it hit the surface. That surface was tempestuous because of the downpour, and the bat was long gone. For a moment, I regretted having thrown it, but I realized that might have been what Satoshi had wanted.
そうだよな
You're right.
俺はまだ感傷に浸る余裕なんかないんだよな
I still can't let myself give in to emotion just yet. I would return for my shovel, get on my bike, dig a hole to hide the body, and bury it. Oh, I've got to... What if he returns to the body and it's not there? Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck, I just need to read. It seemed like a simple sequence of events, but I felt extremely exhausted, and I had to do it all tonight. Satoshi left me with only the advice that I need to finish this up soon, then fell silent for eternity, and disappeared at the bottom of the demon's abyss. I returned to the path I'd ambushed her uncle on. My bike was hidden, sleeping in the brush. I stood it back up. My whole body felt heavy, but I needed to finish it by the end of the day, even if I had to whip myself to do it. Oh, I forgot something. I didn't just come here for my bike. The shovel was here too. Not good. I was zoning out. Every once in a while, if I let my guard down, my vision would almost go black. Pull yourself together, Kechimabara. It's still not over. I went into the grove of trees and looked for the hole in which I'd hidden the shovel. Unfortunately, I had hidden it deep in the forest, not wanting it to be seen. Now everything was black in the night, and I couldn't see anything anymore. I reawakened my fading consciousness, and realized just how big this annoyance really was.
おい、マジかよ。
Wait, you can't be serious. The sweat the rain washed away before came back up to my skin. Deep, deep in the forest, where the street lights could never reach. The fact that it'd be so pitch black had been completely uncalculated. With this much darkness, even if I had been able to kill him right away like I'd planned, I didn't know if I could still have buried him without a problem. What should I do? I simply couldn't find the shovel tonight. If I forced myself to go deep into the forest, I'd lose even my sense of direction, and might actually get lost in there. That might have been an exaggeration, but it was fully possible I'd trip over a tree root and sprain a muscle. Oh right, my house's storage room. There was another shovel there, the same fold-up kind. Couldn't I go back to the house, get the shovel, and give up on finding the shovel tonight? It's not as though the name Mybra is written on the shovel, but it seemed like an unusual item for from an import variety store, made in another country, so I didn't want to leave that shovel here. But in this darkness, I couldn't do anything. I should give up and go back to the storage room. And there was an electric lantern in there. If I used that for light, I could look for it. But it was so extremely dark. Could I light up the way with just a lantern? The light of a lantern in this dark night. Couldn't discard the possibility of it drawing eyes. And I doubted if I could find the shovel with the lantern's feeble light. Besides, I left the body there for a pretty long time already. My sense of fear, dulled through excessive exhaustion, finally reared its ugly head. Anyway, for now, the most important thing was to hide the body. A shovel being found wouldn't be a big deal, but a corpse? If they found that, I'd share the same fate as Satoshi. First, I'd go back to the storage room at home. Then, I'd get the lantern. Now that it's gotten this dark, I might still need light to dig up a hole for the body too. And I'd get the other shovel. And then I'd deal with the body first thing. Once that was done, come back here, find the shovel, bring it back. I had to. Had to do at least that much. But I was so tired. But complaining was getting me nowhere. If I start getting complacent now, everything will have been for naught. At some point, I had sat down. I gritted my teeth and endured, lifting my heavy hips. The night was young. Of all the nights I'd experienced, none had ever been this long. When would it all end? The night was young. Alright, we'll take my BRB here, and we'll finish up this chapter or something. I will be back super shortly. You get to listen to the rain. All right, class, back to your seats. Back to your seats. 1, 2, 3, all eyes on me. Is that a thing your teachers used to say? For some reason, that's just where my brain went. Alright, let's finish this thing. Let's finish this murder thing. The lights at home were dazingly bright. Oh, it'd be actually very funny if, like, his fucking deadbeat dad was the one who, like, busted him. Could you imagine having such a deadbeat dad, and then, like, your dad thwarts your, like, murder plan? That would be crazy. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust, like, my headphones, and I'm just babbling nonsense as I'm, like, fixing my stuff. Okay, the lights at home were dazingly bright. Suddenly, they reminded me of how hungry I was. I checked the clock and saw that it was almost 7. Maybe this is just me. If I murdered someone, I would probably not be hungry and would not want to eat for like a full 24 hours. I don't think I could eat. I checked the clock and saw it was almost 7. I thought for sure it was 2 or 3 in the morning already. I was surprised how messed up my biological clock had gotten just from this one night. There was a warm light coming from the curtains in the living room window. The worlds between here and what was beyond those curtains were so different. If only that man hadn't shown up, I would have been in that light. I'd still be excited from the festival, and I'd be talking to my parents about how much fun I had with all my friends. And then, even though they made a hot meal for me, I would have eaten way too much at the stalls, barely eaten any of it, and gone back to my room. No doubt I'd crawl into my futon and easily let myself fall asleep. But right now, I was completely different. There wasn't a single ember of warmth from those weak street lights. Right now, I was unconnected to any time spent with my family, and there was neither warm food nor the time to allow myself to sleep. My body exposed to the cold rain, I knew that I simply had to spur myself on to accomplish what I must. I realized how timid, how cowardly I was becoming. For what purpose? Did I need to kill someone so badly that it was worth feeling this terrible? I lost sight of that purpose. I selected the fastest, most fundamental way of saving Satoko, and executed it without hesitation. That man was dead. He was gone. He would never, ever hurt Satoko again. We all thought frantically for days on end about Satoko's problem, and finally, with no options, we gave up, and I had solved it in one night. By myself, without anyone's help. Right about now, Satoko would be making dinner for her uncle, despite not knowing when he'd return, and she might be spending the night trembling in fear of whether he'd yell at her for how it tasted. But her uncle wouldn't come home. She wouldn't have to fear his wrath, nor let him make her feel sad. I see. I did it. I successfully saved Satoko. All I'd been thinking about for a long time was killing that man. I had forgotten the feeling that it was actually all to save her.
そっか
I did. I did something good. That's right. I did something good, didn't I? I felt hot tears coming from my eyes. And that's when I first realized that the exhaustion I had been feeling was actually guilt. The blade of guilt, for a while now, had just been scraping away with its tip, hurting my heart. It hurt so bad I couldn't stand it. It was throbbing painfully. It hurt so much, it was so painful that I cried. I cried tears of joy at saving Satoko. I didn't know why, really, anymore. I just cried. My tears fell and fell. As I stood there for a while, coming to terms with those warm tears, my heart was comforted a little. Alright, Kechimabra. That's enough. There's nothing to regret or feel ashamed about. Both my body and mind were thoroughly exhausted, and that was a fact. It was only natural I couldn't feel anything. Even tomorrow, and the day after that, I might not be able to feel anything for a while. But there was one thing that was true. There was the indisputable fact that I had saved Satoko. One day, we would surely be rewarded. One day, I'd be proud of how distressing an enterprise I'd undertaken to get Satoko's smile back. And so that I could wait for that day, I had to put the finishing touches on this night. If I left it undone, everything I'd accomplished today would be for naught. I looked back up at the sky, which didn't look like it would stop raining anytime soon. Then, I rubbed my eyes and summoned forth energy from my core again. How long did I plan on spacing out? This isn't the time for daydreaming. Someone could find that corpse this very moment. That pessimistic thought was proof that very natural emotion of fear had returned to me. As I allowed the fear to spur me onwards, I went to look for the other shovel and the lantern inside the storage room. It was fortunate. I remembered what it looked like around the street light the body was near. With how dark it was quite possible I wouldn't have been able to look for it either. I didn't realize that when I left the place, so the idea of memorizing the spot hadn't even crossed my mind. And that's why I had to call it fortunate that I managed to get back to the body like this. The corpse was now located in a big, muddy pile. Half the thing had already sunk into the swamp-like pool of water. I only realized afterward, but there was an unused irrigation channel right nearby, clogged with fallen leaves and dirt, and there was rainwater flowing in from there. My shoes had been awash with water for a long time now, so without any hesitation, I stepped into the puddle. Luckily, the whole muddy stream washed it all away. I couldn't leave any slight traces, like bloodstains. The rain was like a blessing from heaven. I checked around me, paying very close attention, then turned off the lantern. It became pitch black, but my eyes got used to the darkness in a few moments, and once I managed to reach the streetlight on the other side, I was able to make out even faint lights. I stuck the shovel into the puddle right next to the corpse. The ground was even looser here than I thought, and the shovel's tip easily slid inside it. I had to hurry and dig. If I took too much time, I might lose my energy and strength again. It felt almost like digging a hole in the sand at the beach. It was easy to dig, but no matter what, the muddy water kept flowing in, covering the hole. The digging wasn't going as well as I'd hoped. I dug, and the water would go in, so I wouldn't get a sense of how deep it was. The only way for me to measure it was but to bury my own foot in the mud. I'm digging just fine. It's alright, don't be disheartened. Dig, dig, dig. Occasionally a car would come by on the road, and I'd hurry to hide myself in the trees. Everyone was only passing through. They wouldn't have their eyes peeled in this kind of darkness. I understood it logically, but I still couldn't help but hide. What I was really scared of wasn't quite that one of those cars would coincidentally happen to witness me here. It was that the distance I could spot cars from was getting gradually shorter. At first, I noticed the splashing sounds from really far away as cars drove through them. I started noticing them less and less, and the car that just passed by, I didn't notice it until its headlights were upon me. I felt my senses growing duller by the second. If someone were to take a peek in secret as I was burying the body at the worst possible time, maybe I wouldn't even notice. The moment I thought that, I took a good look all around me. I roused all my half-asleep senses and searched for signs of presence nearby. What if I found out someone was spying on me from the trees? Feels like someone might just pop out at some second. A carnivorous feeling snarled at me, glaring. If there was, then I would dig another hole. I'd come this far already. In order to achieve perfection, I didn't care how much more I had to pay. I didn't know what kind of face I was making at the time, but it was definitely a fervently glaring one. My five senses reached the conclusion that nobody was present. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief. How long had I been digging this mud out of here? It was deep enough for it to go up to my knees. Maybe this was enough. Maybe I'd thrown the corpse in as a test. I swallow, getting my breathing under control. Despite how much I'd beaten him, I was afraid of touching the corpse. so instead, I dragged it by the feet to the hole. It took more than just a waggle and a tug to do it, but of course it did. Considering this man's weight, it was easily 80 kilograms. Metric system? Kilograms? I rallied all my strength and dragged him. At this point, my groundless fears that he might suddenly start moving again had vanished long ago. His body fit perfectly into the muddy hole. 80 kilograms to me, that could be anywhere between 50 and 500 pounds. I would have no idea. So, somewhere within that range. His body fit perfectly into the muddy hole. It was more than deep enough. All night, let's bury him. Or all right. Not night. All right, let's bury him. Quickly, quickly, quickly. If I did a perfect job of burying it here, everything would be over. I would hide it in a hole, the hole, and none of this would ever have happened. When I realized I only had a little farther to go to finish everything, I was racked with pointless anxiety, like I was in a race against time. It was like I was absorbed in a delusion, but if I didn't bury the body quickly, it might come back to life. In any case, in a great rush, I poured mud and dirt into the hole. If I didn't work efficiently, someone might find me here. Until now, I figured if someone saw, I'd just kill them, but not anymore. I was arrested with such absolute fear that if someone saw me, it would all be over. As I finished the work off, it was a total mess. Splish splash, squish squash. Isn't kilograms to pounds just multiplied by approximately 2.2? Maybe. Possibly. I mean, that sounds generally about right. But also, it's very fun to just be ignorant. So, I'm choosing that route. I drew the surface of the shovel across the ground, trying to make it flat. I was completely covered in mud at that point. The rain washed the mud off my body, but not off my now blackened clothing. My body and mind were caked with panic, with fear, with rain and sweat and mud. My shoulders heaving, I threw down the shovel and sat down in the mud. I was so exhausted that I wanted to lie down right here and sleep. It was over. This time, for real. It was over. The man was now in the bottom of the wet dirt. Right this moment, there were traces that this place had been dug up, but the rain and flowing muddy water would completely cover it all within moments. Yes, it was over. I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it, you motherfucker! And then I fell over backwards, face up in the mud. Raindrops pelted my face without mercy, but I didn't care. After staying there for a while, resting my mind, I got up again. It was over. So, let's go home. You already buried the whole thing, so now it's like it's never happened. It never happened, so there's no reason for me to stay out here, get rained on. I wobbled to my feet. I wouldn't use the shovel anymore. I considered disassembling it, but I didn't have the strength in my absolute exhaustion. I didn't, though I needed to take it apart anyway. Dragging the shovel behind me, I headed towards the light. I stood up my bike. It had been laying in the grass by the road. I didn't know how I was going to get the still assembled shovel into the front basket. Put the shovel down the back of my shirt like I'd done for the baseball bat. Unlike the bat, the corner of it was on my back, making it very painful. Plus, if I relaxed my posture even a little, it would fall out behind me. I ended up having to carry the shovel in my left hand and ride my bike using only my right hand. Not only was I in a state of total exhaustion, this was a downpour. One hand on the handlebars. I was swaying to and fro like a drunk. But I didn't care. Even swaying like this, I got a little closer to home every time I pedaled. I saw two lights swaying slowly in front of me. A car was approaching. Oh no, I need to get out of the way. From far away in the shadows of the darkness, a car appeared. Its dazzling light. Dazzling lights washed over me. The driver made a short honk of the horn to inform me I was in the middle of the road. I have to get out of the way. I kept telling myself that, but not only was I riding one-handed, I was exhausted, so I couldn't do anything. Wobble, 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 wobble. I meandered about, not going to the right or to the left. Oh god. The driver decided to swerve out of the way right in front of me, and without lowering its speed much, steadily came towards me. Its outline grew larger in my vision. And telling myself again that I really needed to get out of the way, I jerked the handlebars in one direction, then lost my balance and fell over, bike and all. My whole body splayed out. One foot got caught in the bike. This was seriously bad. My drowsiness quickly vanished, and just as a cold sweat broke out of my skin, the driver recklessly spun the wheel to the left, made a counterclockwise U-turn, came right up to me and stopped. The driver's seat door opened, and the driver came out. Oh no. You idiot. What are you doing here? I was pretty sure someone would yell at me like that. Takano! Not who I imagined! Oh my. Look who it is. It was a woman's voice, and one I knew. I lifted my face off the ground and looked at her. Let me tell you, if I had to murder someone, the next person's face I would have to be forced to see, I would want anyone but Takano. Me personally. It was a woman's voice and one I knew. I lifted my face off the ground and looked at her.
Takano-san.
Takano-san. Good evening. The moon is very pretty tonight. Maebara-kun. Also, there's already my theory, right, that I said the other day that I think Takano murders Tomitake. I bet Takano has murdered probably like about 5 people in her lifetime. I would not put it past her. At least 5. This is the face of a murderer. It was raining far too hard to see the moon. Takano-san unfolded an umbrella and smiled as she spoke. That smile was, for some reason, uncanny, like she'd seen right through me. Out of all the people I could have met, I got the sudden feeling that this was the one I wanted to see the least. Yep, see exactly what I said. What are you doing out so late? And you're soaked and covered in mud and no umbrella either. What is that? A shovel. She had come here via car. She wouldn't have known what I was just doing. And yet, she smiled, as though she knew everything. Calm down, Kichimabara. She always makes that mysterious-looking smile, remember? Don't let her in on anything, lest you dig your own grave. The rumors say you were playing baseball with a golf club. Is that what the shovel's for too? You're using it as an umbrella? I should tell a good lie here. If I could just do that, things would work out. When I went with Rina to go digging for treasure at the dam, we forgot this there. Hmm? And you went to get it in this downpour? Shit. When I left my house, I didn't think it would rain, so... Oh, it's been raining for a while, though. You've been out for quite some time, haven't you? Well, yes, I was kind of wandering around. Even so. You came from that direction, didn't you? Alright, we're gonna have to murder Takano. She's asking too many questions. She's she's asking too many questions. She's poking her nose in a place she shouldn't be. Catchy. The murder count is gonna go up to 2.
ダムとは場所も方向も正反対よ。
The dam is in the opposite direction, you know. What is this? What did Automat get here? So she laughs. Takano-san was clearly aware that something exceedingly abnormal was happening with me, and she played her little word games. She was enjoying driving me into a corner. Maybe she had a vague guess, just from the situation, of what I've been doing. My timing really sucked to run into her, of all people, of all the times. At the very end, I could only be frustrated at my terrible luck. I'd done so much, and the end was literally right around the corner. So why at the very, very end did I run into her, of all people? What do you do, Kichimibara? You're still holding something that could be a dangerous weapon. Will you silence Takano-san? Just bash her. Bash her! Even if it would be simple to kill Takano-san, dealing with the car she'd come in afterward would be an issue. I couldn't drive a car. It was completely different from a motorbike. But even if the car was here, as long as there was no proof I killed her. Yes, tonight's downpour, without any prior planning, all by coincidence. A hit and run. As long as I didn't drop any handkerchiefs with my initials on them, they would never know I killed her. A black flame quietly smoldered in rage in the core of my body.
怖い顔。
That's a scary look.
いじめすぎちゃったかしら。
Did I teach you too much? Takano-san started to laugh by herself, then thankfully stopped talking about it. But the dark clouds in my mind didn't go away.
それはそうと。
Leaving that aside,
いつまで自転車にまたがったまま地面に這いつくばってるつもり？
how long are you planning on crawling on the ground with your bike like that?
そろそろどいてくれるかしら。
Would you mind moving out of the way? If I moved, she would leave. So I tried to get the bicycle up and out of the way, but then twisted my ankle in it and fell over. Ah, ow, shit, ah. There was a sharp pain in the ankle I twisted. This is nonsense. A sprained ankle? Now?
あら、大丈夫？
Oh my. Are you alright?
ひょっとしてひねっちゃった？
Did you twist your ankle? Takano-san squats down and takes a good look at the ankle I keep rubbing. She compares it to my facial expression, apparently trying to gauge how bad the wound was.
立てる？
Can you stand? Yeah. I didn't expect to, but I couldn't even stand up. It was all I could do to shamelessly wriggle on the ground like a caterpillar. Takano-san looked at her watch, then at her car, and after thinking for a moment, opened the passenger seat door. Oh god. And then gave me her shoulder to stand up with.
家まで送るわ。
I'll take you home.
なんだか私が跳ねたみたいで嫌な気持ちだけどね。
I do feel bad since it's almost like I hit you.
すみません。
I'm sorry.
見捨てるのも気の毒だし。
I wouldn't just leave you there.
私が優しい人でよかったわね。
It's a good thing I'm a nice person. Oh god. Nobody good has ever called themselves a nice person, but that would have been a terrible thing to say to someone holding me up like this. I took Takano's hands and sat down in the passenger seat. Takano-san went around the back and looked at my bike on the ground.
自転車は後日ってことにはならない？
I don't suppose we could take the bicycle home tomorrow. I could clearly tell from her face that she thought it would be a pain since it would be heavy and it would get her car dirty. But my bike has the same Mibara written on it. Has the name Mibara written on it. I couldn't leave it here out like this.
その、なんとか車に詰めませんか？
Well, can you somehow put it in the car?
ないと困るんで。
I sort of need it.
トランクはもういっぱいなの。
The trunk is already full.
後部座席なんかに積んだらシートが泥で汚れちゃうわ。
If I put it in the back seat, I'll get the seats dirty with mud.
まあ、あなたを乗せた時点でもう十分に汚れてるんだけれども。
Well, given how you're already in here, it's already dirty, I suppose. I hate this lady with a burning passion. I turn back to the back seat and see someone's folding bicycle there already. They still look big enough to fit my bike in there as well. My expression reflected my thoughts, and the exact thought seemed to get through to her.
わかったわわかったわ。
Alright, alright.
積んであげる。
I'll put it in here for you.
今夜だけはお姉さんも優しくしてあげるわ。
I'll be really nice, but just for tonight, okay? Takano-san continued with her mean jokes, but she hoisted my bike and loaded it into the back seat for me. The mean jokes were one thing, but couldn't she do something about that eerie smile of hers? And even more importantly than the bike, I didn't want to leave the shovel here. The shovel could be directly connected to the buried body and to me.
ついでで申し訳ないんですけど、シャベルもお願いしていいですか？
Sorry to ask another favor, but could you get my shovel too? Takano-san gave me a clearly dubious expression.
シャベル？
Your shovel?
別にいいけど。
That's fine with me.
大事なもの？
Is it important? The more I talk, the worse it gets for me. That's how I felt, so didn't force myself to answer her. Eventually, outlasted by my silence, Takano-san gave a short shrug and sighed.
はいはいわかったわ。
Alright, I understand.
僕はシャベルがないと困っちゃうんでしょ。
You need your shovel, right? This bit is gonna end with her being like, her knowing that I've murdered someone, yeah? There's no way this doesn't end like that. There's too much suspicion going on.
そんな怖い目しなくてもいいわよ。
You don't need to make such a mean face. Takano-san brought over the shovel that was lying in the middle of the road. I clutched it like I'd never let go of it again. Takano-san watched me with a puzzled look.
じゃあ行くわよ。
Okay, let's be off.
前原くんのお家ってあの前原屋敷でいいんでしょ。
Maibara-kun, you live at the Maibara mansion, don't you?
なんでみんなうちのことを前原屋敷って呼ぶんですか？
Why does everyone call my house the Maibara mansion?
だって現にお屋敷じゃない。
Because it's actually a mansion.
お金持ちが羨ましいわ。
It must be nice to be rich. As she spoke, Takano-san pulled the handbrake and stepped on the gas. After making a skillful U-turn using the shoulder of the road, she steadily increased in speed. From the rearview mirror, that accursed place seemed to melt into the darkness.
慣れた？
Reed?
え？
Huh?
すみません。よく聞こえませんでした。
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
今なんて？
What was that? Takano-san suddenly tried to say something to me, but thoughtlessly, I didn't catch it. Looking ahead, Takano-san said the same thing one more time.
したい。
Oh! The body?
上手に埋められた？
How well was it buried? I thought my heart might beat out of my chest, but I didn't let it show. But my lungs were squeezed tight, and I couldn't breathe.
何を言ってるんですか？
If I was in Getchi's situation right now, I'd be so panicked. I would somehow just try to have my soul leave my body and just peace out at that point. I would quickly open the door and just toss your body out the door. Just ejectocito out of there. Just leave. Just never come back. Oh my god. What are you talking about?
こういう山奥に死体を埋めるときはね、
When burying bodies in mountains like these?
結構深く掘らないと野犬とかが匂いを嗅ぎつけて掘り返しちゃうことも多いのよ。
You have to bury it fairly deep, because wild dogs will often smell the corpse and dig it out.
野犬が加えてた人骨で事件が発覚。警察行っ 帯を山狩りへなんて結構ないことじゃないのよ。
Some human bone a wild dog brings back in its mouth leads to an incident being uncovered. Police head out to a stretch of mountains. It actually happens pretty often, you know? Pound, pound, clang, clang. Huge rusted bells start ringing in my head. Had I buried it so deep that I could say it absolutely wouldn't be found? The answer was no. I was in such a rush to bury him to get it over with that I couldn't deny having possibly buried it too close to the surface. No. Wait. That's not... Wait, anyway. This woman, how did she know? She had just passed by here in her car by coincidence. And we ran into each other. By coincidence. If she had been watching the entire thing from the trees, and once I left, she came back in her car, it didn't make logical sense. So then, why? Kachimabara. That's it. You need to kill her. My entire body reawakened. I could feel my pupils dilate. I couldn't possibly beat her to death with a shovel in such a small car. Then, I wouldn't use my hands and strangle her. I would use my hands, but she was driving right now. If I strangled her, we might get into an accident. Then, suddenly, Takano-san turned and looked at me.
ボケもツッコミもなし。
What? No witty retort? For a moment I was surprised. What was she talking about?
私たちあんまり相性は良くないみたいね。
It would seem we're not a very good match, Takano-san said, disappointed, returning her gaze ahead. I repeated the words she said, a few times in my head, and finally realized she meant it as an off-color joke. I didn't know whether it was really a joke, but I wouldn't be able to fool her, no matter how many lies I told. Right now, with her driving the car like this, I couldn't kill her. I would have an even harder time doing it when she got back to my house. That moment we met, that had been my best chance. And to have missed it so easily, it hurt. After that, Takano-san didn't say a single word. The car was completely buried in an almost suffocating silence. What kind of woman had I run into? With everything that happened today, I managed to pull it off. At the very end of it all, I just had to go home and go back to sleep. What bad luck. As my sleepiness gradually overtook me, the anxiety I felt steadily started to matter less and less. Is this alright, Kachimabara? You probably should not leave this woman alive. Right now, I'm tired. Oh no, are we gonna get further chapters where he feels the need to take out? Oh, it's a slippery slope thing of murder. He's killed one person, he knows he can do it again. She stepped on the brakes and I jerked against my seatbelt. That woke me up. I thought I must have fallen asleep by accident. I looked out the window, and there was a big building with faint lights on. It was really dark out, but I knew immediately it was my house.
今ご家族を呼んでくるわね。
I'll go get your folks for you.
少しの間だけど一人でお留守番できるかしら。
Would you mind the place for a few moments while I'm gone?
バカにしないでください。
Don't make fun of me, please.
それにほら、
Besides, look,
もう大丈夫です。
I'm fine now.
一人で歩けますから。
I can walk by myself.
あらあら、
Oh my.
さっきは痛そうな顔して肩まで借りたのに。
You were in such pain before that you had to get me to carry you.
ひょっとしてお姉さんに甘えてみたかったから。
Did you just want a pretty lady to be nice to you? I'm so funny. As Takano-san spoke, she left the car and opened up her umbrella. The sound of falling raindrops was fierce, as always. I carefully reached down and rubbed the ankle I twisted. There was still some pain and a little weirdness, but they weren't that bad anymore. Rather than being happy about how light the wound was, I first regretted this whole thing. If I hadn't twisted my ankle, I could have still taken the option of killing Takano-san. Right then and there. There probably wasn't much doubt that Takano-san was convinced I was involved in some sort of crime. If she knew about everything happening with Satoko, then she might have even guessed I'd killed somebody. Click. Takano-san opened the passenger side door for me.
本当に肩は必要ないかしら？
You sure you don't need my shoulders?
もう一回だけ甘えてもいいのよ。
I wouldn't mind doing it for you again. I ignored her and answered by getting out of the car by myself. The rain was still pretty intense. I got my bicycle out of the back seat. I was a bit curious who the other bike belonged to, but that didn't matter right now. I let Takano-san hold the umbrella over me, then pushed my bicycle up to the front door. I mean, if my theory about her murdering Tomitake, right? What if that's... I mean, what if she is just from her, like, returning from her trip of killing Tomitake, and then they have a chance encounter, two of these people who each killed someone on the night of Wada Nagashi. And then Takano here is just gonna be like, she drives away, never to be seen again. I let Takano-san hold the umbrella over me, then pushed my bicycle up to the front door.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
もうここまでで大丈夫です。
I'll be fine now. My ankle hurt so much earlier, and it still did, but it aggravated me that it hadn't even been that bad. It was really, seriously, terrible luck.
じゃあ、私はこれで失礼するわね。
Alright, I will be leaving then.
前原くんと二人きりで夜のドライブだったなんて。
Keep
み
it
んな
a,
には内緒よ。
keep it a secret that we had a nice evening drive together by ourselves, okay?
特に二郎さんにはね。
Especially from Jiro-san. Jiro-san? Oh, she meant Tomitake-san. I suppose she calls him by his first name. His full name must be Jiro Tomitake then. And then, the other bike, the folding one in the back seat that I didn't care about at first, suddenly came to mind. Hey, excuse me, you're from Hinamazawa, right? On the day before yesterday, as I walked near the dam, half asleep, Tomitake-san had talked to me. And the bicycle he'd been riding? It was...
あの後ろに積んであった自転車、富武さんのですよね。
That bicycle in the back belongs to Tomitake-san, doesn't it? Takano-san's eyes. I think they sharpened for a moment.
どうしてそう思うのかし
And why do you think that?
以前に会った時見てますから。
I saw it when I met him before.
フレームも特徴的でしたし。
The frame stood out to me.
ら。でも、おかしくないかしら。
But wouldn't that be odd?
この自転車が二郎さんのものだなんてこと、ありえると思う？
Do you think it's possible for this to be Jiro-san's bike?
おかしいって。え？
Odd. Uh-huh. Takano-san, her hair elegantly fluttering, peers into my eyes.
だって。
Did I read that right? Oh, yeah. For some reason, I read this as the hair was peering into his eyes. I was like, why would, even as like a phrase, I'd be like, why would the hair be peering into his eyes? But it's Takano peers into the eyes, her hair, describing language. Okay. Sentence structure. Well,
ひなみ沢には民宿なんてないのよ。
there are no bed and breakfasts in Hinamazawa, are there?
なら二郎さんは町に泊まっていることになるわよね。
Jiro-san would need to be staying in town.
そうなんですか？
Is that so?
まあ、そうならそうなんじゃないですか？
Well, I guess that's right, huh?
町からひなみ沢まではとても歩いてなんか行き来できないわよね。
Can't really walk from town to Hinamazawa, can you?
バスだって走ってないし。
And there are no buses either.
せめて自転車くらいはなきゃね。
You at least need a bicycle. She didn't need to tell me that. That's why Jiro-san was riding a bike.
その二郎さんの自転車が私の車に積んであって、
For Jiro-san's bicycle to be stowed in my car.
二郎さんは私の車に乗っていないなら、 おかしいじゃない。
And him not in there? That would be strange, wouldn't it? Yeah, Takano, it would be strange. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
二郎さんはひなみ沢で自転車なしってことになっちゃうわよ。
It would mean Jiro-san was in Hinamizawa without a bike.
二郎さんを放っておいて、自転車だけが私の車に積んであるなんてね。
I'd have to have left Jiro-san somewhere and put his bike in the car, wouldn't I?
ありえないでしょ。
It wouldn't make sense. As she spoke, Takano-san made eyes like a hawk. Unfortunately, I didn't really understand what was so odd.
それの何がおかしいんですか？
What about this is odd?
高野さんは富武さんとは仲がいいんですよね。
Aren't you and Toмотake-san friends?
何かのようで自転車を積んであげたって別におかしいことだとは思わないですけれど。
I don't really think it would be strange for there to be some reason you have his bicycle in your car.
そうじゃないでしょ。
But it would be.
つまりこのひなみ沢において二郎さんとその自転車がバラバラに存在することはありえないということなのよ。
What I mean is, Jiro-san and his bicycle being in different places in Hinamizawa wouldn't make sense.
以上の理由からこの自転車が二郎さんのものであるわけがない。
And for those reasons, it means this bicycle can't be his.
理解できたかしら？
Do you understand now? Takano-san's roundabout way of talking was hard to comprehend, but that eeriness I could feel, that vague dreadfulness, I didn't like it at all. But the most wild, instinctive part of me warned me not to pry.
あれは私の自転車なのよ。
That's my bicycle.
二郎さんに選んでもらったからセンスが似てるのは間違いないけれどね。
Jiro-san picked it out for me, though, so I can't deny that it looks alike.
あ、そうだったんですか。
Ah, I see now.
道理で似てるとは。
I thought it looked familiar.
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
Oh boy. You and I never saw each other tonight. And now she was talking about something completely different.
何を言ってるんですか？
What are you talking about?
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
You and I never saw each other tonight. I stayed there, not knowing what to say. Takano-san repeated her eerie, succinct phrase to me again.
私とあなたは今夜
You
出会
and,
わなかった。
you and I never met this night.
私とあなたは
You
今
and I
夜出会わなかった。
never saw each other tonight. Something cold and unpleasant crawled up my spine. I knew, because I'd killed a person with my own hands before. I mean, again, if I'm in his shoes, I know he might not be thinking this. Maybe, who knows. But he... if I was... My brain immediately at this point goes, okay, I killed someone, she knows I killed someone, she's killed someone, I know she killed someone. You know what? I agree. We both did not meet each other tonight. I'm perfectly fine with that. Sounds good, Takano. I knew because I'd killed a person with my own hands before. Before, I came to the conclusion that I only had one chance to beat this woman to death to keep her quiet, and I couldn't hesitate. So I could tell that she'd arrived at this very same conclusion. My instincts warned me again. I wish I'd never met this woman. A faint sense, like a rotten smell, drifting from this woman, was no doubt the exact same sense that I was giving off right now. The very peculiar aspiration, the lack of uncertainty at taking a human's life for a purpose, one that only those who had risen above everything bad, or had. Actually, maybe I should have called it a nausea. It meant, and I didn't know how to explain this very well, but Takano-san was the same as me. In other words, someone who shouldn't have been here. Someone I couldn't have let anybody know was here. Someone who nobody would have wanted to see. And, now that we had, we could calmly pretend as though we never met. Yes. Which meant that, just like I wanted to have nothing else to do with her, she didn't want anything to do with me either. And, she too wanted to make it so that we'd never met. Both of us wished for the same thing. Our desires were the same, which meant Takano-san's suggestion was extremely practical, and that I couldn't outright refuse.
それでいいならそういうことでもいいです。
If that's fine with you, then sure, whatever.
俺と高野さんは今夜出会わなかった。
You and I didn't meet this night. It was really funny when you said last week that maybe Takano killed Tomotake when the scene was coming. Hey, what's the phrase? Even a broken clock is right twice or whatever. If I throw out a million of theories, I'm bound to hit on one, maybe, possibly, you know? If that's fine with you, then sure, whatever. You and I didn't meet this night. I mean, I don't know, that I guess it would be up to the different judges other than myself, but I don't know how good of a poll that would have actually been at that point. Like, you know, maybe it was already, like, somewhat obvious, and I was almost just, like, just putting it out in words, you know? So maybe it wasn't that great.
そうよね。
You're right.
あなたにとってもその方がいいでしょうから。
That would be best for you too, wouldn't it?
どうしてそう思うんですか？
Why do you think that?
いちいちうるさいわね。
Are you seriously asking me that?
それくらい自分で考えられないの、坊や。
She called me boy. You can't figure that out on your own, boy? She cut me off with the condescending word boy, right in front of my house, in a place most unsuited to killing. And yet, there's a frozen thirst for blood coming from both of us. I would be killed. Right here. Right now. Yeah. Then I should have definitely beaten her as we passed each other. A damp, greasy sweat broke out on my body. That's fine. If you want me, then you can come any time. And when I made up my mind, she shook her hair elegantly and turned on her heel.
よかったわね。
Good.
私が優しい人で。
I am a kind person after all. What was good? How? Because she was a kind person? Was that it? I didn't get it. Takano-san got into her car. We didn't exchange any words, parting. I performed a massive feat, the killing of Sataka's uncle, and yet I didn't feel any accomplishment. Oh no. On the holy night of Oyashiro-sama's curse, on which the taking of another's life was allowed. On the terribly rainy night when the demons wandered, as agents of Oyashiro-sama's will. The demons were never supposed to meet, but suddenly they did. The demons parted ways triumphantly. There was no reason for them to fight. Both their objectives had already been accomplished. With the rain hitting me like a waterfall, my eyes met with Takano-san's through the car window. The female demon, her mouth twisted into a distorted, fearless smile. It was too late to kill her. Far too late. That first moment, the very first moment we saw each other, had been my best chance. And now that we had parted like this, I was acutely aware of it. I should not have let her live. She beeped her horn quickly, then her car drove away into the deluge. The one woman who knew what really happened tonight disappeared into the dark. As long as she was alive, this night would never really end. Just get into an accident, I thought to myself. Please get into a car accident and kill yourself. In this downpour, slip on some mud or something, and fly face first into a tree, and die. It wasn't a delusion, a wild flight of fantasy. It was an earnest wish. Yes, it was a command. Die. Die! And keep your mouth shut for eternity. Because I have no doubt, you're wishing for me to die all the same. My curse upon her faded emptily, as Takano-san's tail lights disappeared into the utter darkness. Her car's lights were completely out of sight now. Even the sound of the engine faded into the sound of the heavy rain, and was inaudible now. See, I would have thought that she would have still been, like, just gone. Like, she does the killing here, and that she would, like, leave completely. But if she hangs around, or whatever, for whatever fucking reason, who would I have in a fight of the two murderers? unfortunately, very much Takano. Takano seems like she's done this many times before. She knows she's an adult. You have a smarter brain. You have access to potentially more things if something bad happens. I don't know what if there. I don't think it's gonna actually come down. That would be actually very funny if it came to like a fist fight or something. But if it's just a matter of like I don't know, outsmarting or like blaming the other person. I don't know what if it's actually gonna become a confrontation, or they have to do something to each other. Man. I too I have no idea how this is gonna resolve, because like I had no idea that like this meeting with Takano would happen. That's so interesting. It's so funny how it happened. An interesting dynamic. I too turned on my heel to draw the curtains on this insane night, to open my front door and end it all. I began walking towards the front door. I was covered in mud, and I made a squishing sound with every step I took. Squish. Squish. Don't worry, Ketchumabra. Squish. Squish. She'll die. Squish. Squish. Her end will be as miserable as she is. Damn! I'll throw her into some flames alive and let her dance until she's burned to a crisp. I'll burn her to ashes in the fires of hell itself until she's roasted as much as she deserves. I wish. I really do. Squish. Huh? Just now, I hadn't taken a step. And yet, a footstep. Excuse me. Without emotion, I turned around. If there was a footprint that wasn't my own, then it was obvious someone else was behind me. Was somebody else there? I was sick of this. Whoever it was, I was sick of everything tonight. This time, I would kill them. I'd kill them without a second thought. I wouldn't hesitate to turn around and dig another hole. But, fortunately, there was nobody there. I wasn't going to have to kill any more people tonight. This night, couldn't handle any more of it. Even if I heard an extra footstep each time I stopped, I put it down to me just being tired. It's the spirit of Satoshi. It's Rika. She's just very good at hiding, due to her small diminutive frame. Ketchy hasn't learned it yet, but Rika has the ability to turn invisible. Fire from Hell and Victim of the 5th Year. Hello? Do you need the hospital or the fire department? The fire department. Is there a fire or some other accident? Please speak slowly and calmly. I think it's a fire. This is the rest area on the highway. I can see a ton of fire and smoke coming up from the mountains behind us. Nobody goes back there, so I don't know why anything got lit on fire. Anyway, I figured I should let you know. It could turn into a forest fire. I understand. I need to know exactly where you are, so please tell me your name, a phone number we can use to get in touch with you, and the exact location of the fire.
G ブロック西側山斜面にて不審火の通報あり。
Notice from the fire department headquarters. We have a report of a suspicious fire on the western slopes of the mountains.
街道から離れていることからカップルの焚き火か不法投棄のゴミに放火したかの可能性があります。
Given its distance from the road, could be a couple's bonfire or someone unlawfully burning trash.
現場は深い森林地帯。周辺に民家はないが延焼の可能性あり。
The location is deep in the woods. No homes in the area, but the fire could spread.
直ちに現場を確認されたし。
Immediately go to the site to verify.
消防署ですか。こちらは G ブロック第3消防分隊です。
Is this the fire station? This is the redacted district fire department branch.
通報の現場にさっき到着。
We arrived moments ago at the reported area.
ドラム缶が一つ山中に放棄され炎上しているのを確認しました。
Fire confirmed to be a burning oil drum left in the mountains.
火は鎮火しつつあり延焼の可能性はなし。
Fire is calming. There's no chance it will spread.
で、そのドラム缶の中に多分人じゃないかと思うんです。人らしきものが灯油か何かで焼かれたという感じで。
And, well, in the oil drum, I think it might be a person, like a person burned with kerosene or something.
その警察の人にも連絡した方がいいんじゃないかと思いまして。
Well, I think maybe we should get the police over here.
間違いねえよ。
There's no mistaking it.
これ人だよ。
This is a person. Eek. Eek indeed. Victim of the 5th year.
今年のたたりってことっすかね。
This year's curse, then.
そういうことになるんですかね。毎年いろんな殺し方を見せてくれますが、今年は特に際立っていますね。
That's what it looks like. He kills them differently every year, but this is particularly conspicuous, isn't it?
自分で自分の喉をかき破るなんて普通じゃないっす。
Clawing out your own throat. That isn't normal.
あとは鑑識のじいさまに任せましょう。きっと何かの怪しげな薬物を検出してくれるに違いありません。
Let's leave the rest to the old man in forensics. I'm sure he'll find some suspicious drugs.
お疲れ様です。お疲れ様です。
Thank you. Thank you for your hard work.
ああ、おいさん、小宮山さんたちが到着しました。
Oh, Oishi-san. Komiyama-san and the others have arrived.
大石さん、お疲れ様です。今年は一等来てるのが出たらしいじゃないですか。
Oishi-san, much appreciated. Well, it would seem we have a pretty crazy one this year.
裏をかかれました。
Yes, we've been outsmarted.
私はてっきり今夜死ぬのは北条哲平だとばかり思ってたんですがね。
I was absolutely under the impression Teppei Hojo would be get killed tonight. I was just about to say, if the police department and the rest of the village are under the impression that only one killing happens for the curse, right? It actually is Takechi's benefit that, like, they get on the track of something else and they're like, oh, well, there's the one. Good for us. Quite handy.
仏は何者です？
Who is the deceased?
富武二郎。年に何回かひなみ沢に来てる趣味の写真家さんです。
Jiro Tomitake, photographer with a hobby for coming to Hinamazawa a few times a year.
ノーマークだったな。
We didn't even have him marked.
どうなんでしょうね。北条宅にずっと張り付いてたのがバレて、ターゲットを変更したとか。
I wonder what happened. Did they realize we were watching the Hojo residence the whole time and decide to switch the target?
かなあ。恨めったな。
Maybe. We sure flubbed this one.
で、北条哲平の方は何も問題なし。
And there were no problems with Teppei Hojo?
ねえ、夕方頃に娘が祭りに出かけて、その少し後にバイクで出かけまして。
Correct. His daughter left for the festival in the evening, and a little while later, he left on his motorbike.
先に娘が帰ってきて、あれ？
His daughter came back first. Wait.
まだ帰ってないかな？
Has he not come back yet?
どっかで飲んだくれてるのかな？
Is he still out drinking somewhere?
大石さんいらっしゃいますか？
Uh-oh.
高杉課長からです。
Oishi-san, are you there? Call from Chief Takasugi.
1号車の無線にお願いします。
He's on the line in car 1. Uh-oh. 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 Police presence has been warned. Oh, boy. Good stuff. Good stuff. Alright. Let's call it an afternoon. Hopefully, Higurashi's Saturday afternoon was just as good, if not better, than Higurashi Saturday night. Maybe they'll think he ran away like last year. Good point. Possible, possible. It's not outside the realm of possibility. If they can't uncover a body, I don't know. Oishi does seem like the type of person, though, that wouldn't just leave something alone like that, though. He seems to be like the type of character that when you when he gets not fascinated, when he gets locked in on something, he doesn't let it go. He doesn't leave it alone. What do you think is happening now? What's the next conflict? Well, I mean, we've set ourselves up here for potential, in some shape or fashion, Takano versus Kechi. I mean, but, like, neither one of them can say anything to the other or about each other to anyone else, seemingly. So it creates, like, this weird, like, tension of, like, what are they actually going to do? I mean, the best outcome for the two of them would be to be, unfortunately, like what Takano said, them just to both shut up and not say anything about each other to anyone else. But I mean, earlier I was saying like how like it wouldn't shock me if like someone beat Kechi to the murder of the uncle, but now I'm pivoting the idea, and part of me thinks I wouldn't be surprised if someone else gets pinned for the murder of the uncle. Somehow. What if, then we would have a situation where, like, Kechi has to, like, wrestle with the fact. He knows he murdered someone. He's got that guilt. But then, like, the police already knows that potentially, like, the Sonozaki family does some stuff, right? Potentially. What if a member of the Sonozaki family or Mion gets like pinned for the murder somehow, taken into police custody? I'm just spitballing here, but like, what if someone else gets blamed? What if in some weird twisted way, Satoko gets pinned for the murder? Especially because we know, or you know, we don't know anything. But I'm saying like, I'm just saying, what if there's like dots are connected, dots are misconnected somehow, and then we see possibly Kechi have to wrestle with that. That's gonna be my bet, especially because he did this murder to try to restore normalcy to everything. So narratively, it would make sense for something to happen that takes that normalcy away from him yet again, right? And to me, that would say that would mean someone else gets framed for the murder, and then he has to decide what to do from there. That would be my bet. I'm locking it in. Someone else other than Kechi gets pinned for the murder, and bad things continue from there. And I'm sure we'll see that next time we play. I cannot be any further from the truth. So yeah, we'll be ending. Obviously the day is still very early now. So I hope you have a great rest of your... Oh, let me make sure. I need to check a schedule or something. I want to make sure that I'll be back Tuesday night with more of this. Yes. Tuesday night, we'll be back with Higurashi. Nothing should get in the way of that. Unless I become deathly sick. Or something along those lines. So we'll be back Tuesday night with more Higurashi. We'll read the next section, probably one section like we kind of do, and then go from there. It does feel like we got to be wrapping up this chapter at some point soon, though, right? It just feels like that. I know we had, I think the previous 2 chapters had like 12 sub-chapters in them, so if it's along those same number, then that would be the case, but we'll see. Alright, until next time, have yourself a nice rest of your Saturday. Take it easy, stay safe, stay well. Until then, I'm waving. Goodbye.